Dear colleagues and friends, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. We are going to discuss open access and social media platforms for researchers, authors, editors, and I am sure that today's webinar, knowledge gains during today's webinar will transform into advanced academic activities and better articles. We are very happy that today we have participants from different countries, from Ukraine, Poland, India, the United States, Professor Dr. Lonchina from Chicago. And also we have our colleagues and friends from other countries, yes. And I'm very happy to introduce our today's speakers, Dr. Armen Gasparyan, Dr. Latika Gupta, who are regular contributors to our webinars series and our regular supporters. And our first speaker, Dr. Latika Gupta, is going to discuss how can we use Instagram for research papers and for sharing graphic content. Dr. Latika, you can share with us your screen. One moment.
Thank you, Lena, for inviting me yet again. It is truly a pleasure to join all of you, and welcome to our new participants today from the other countries. So we've talked about Instagram before, and this time we'll take it one step further and look deeper into the use of this platform for academics. And for those who need a background, it is a photo and video sharing social media platform, and it is owned by Facebook and was launched in 2010. Since then, its popularity has grown by leaps and bounds. And in fact, millennials, that is mostly mine and Olena's generation, they're very high users of social media, especially Instagram. And this platform largely focuses on image uploads, although they have been introducing a wide variety of different kind of content, including videos recently. And it is also the most popular photo sharing platform, and that is why it merits a discussion. So it's an attractive option for scholars for learning and teaching, primarily because of the user base. For teachers, since the user base is primarily young, so we're most likely to meet students there. More importantly, it has a very strong recreation and emotional base. In fact, it is also considered to be one of the most addictive platforms. So any kind of intuitive learning, which is fast-paced, can be facilitated through Instagram. Now, we all know about the use of technology for medical education, and in terms of med-ed, visuals do tend to stick longer in memory. In fact, it is one of the easiest ways to ensure that learners store information for long-term memory by just kind of pairing concepts with meaningful images. And more than retention, any retention which lasts more than 3 days is way more for visual content, nearing 65% versus written content, which borders around 10 to 20% only. So human beings typically process visual information much more efficiently than text. As you can see here, this is a square versus a plane figure with 4 equal straight sides and 4 right angles. So this doesn't go down well. So clearly an image does better. And currently there is very little literature investigating the use of Instagram for medical education, mostly limited to some other specialities and sciences, not much with life sciences. But one of these papers was pretty interesting, where they looked at 2 pharmacotherapy courses and the acceptance and students' absorption of this content when delivered via Instagram. So these were 2 separate courses where the students enrolled were not told that the courses were also available on social media handles. And here, the content of these courses was broken down as photographs and brief texts, and these were shared on 3 different platforms and delivered in a slow manner weekly over 12 different weeks. And these students were offered pre and post surveys. So, pre survey, the pharmacy students, it appeared that they were really using social media frequently, most popular being Facebook, followed by Instagram. Twitter was 60 daily. However, post survey, despite the wide use of these platforms, only 49% found the study content online. And most of it was found on Facebook, then on Instagram, and then Twitter. So, of these students who found the content on Instagram, 75% agreed that this experiment did enhance their learning related to the course. And 41% additional students agreed that they would encourage faculty members to use Instagram for educational purposes, while only 19% had done so pre survey. So, before being exposed to this, the acceptance rate was poor, but later people really appreciated it. So clearly, Instagram may have much to offer in terms of visual cues and learning, and with various kind of different analysis and graphs, which are these available, including bubble charts and node and hub diagrams. So you'll hear more about this in the next lecture, bibliometric analysis and these kind of maps which are generated with scientometrics. Uh, Instagram really holds potential in defining when you're analyzing a large volume of data, what the data really stands for. So this was a map generated using the VOSviewer platform, which probably you'll hear more about in the next lecture, and search on Instagram related articles. And these are the keywords that come up. So this is what Instagram is all about. And suppose you were to look at a particular topic and see what kind of journals are touching upon this. So articles related to Instagram are like published by Cyanometrics journals and Journal of Science Technology, Information Processing and Management, and then Social Psychology. So there's a wide variety. At a glance, you can gather from this kind of a node and hub diagram that larger the size, higher is the impact, and sometimes the colors denote the year of publication. Also, the bubbles clustered together signify that these publications are of similar kinds, while scattered ones are probably more different in their design. So these kind of graphs are an addition to our toolkit of education, which may have much to offer in terms of visual cues and understanding. And scholars' willingness to learn via social media platforms, this is another area which has been explored recently. Last year itself, where Facebook and Instagram were noted to be accessed daily by pediatric residents in the United States, and YouTube and podcasts were accessed weekly. So it was a survey based study where students said they were more open to the use of podcasts and YouTube for learning, and that corresponded with the weekly access versus Instagram, which was accessed daily. Interestingly, also offers the same features as YouTube. So Instagram offers videos now through IGTV and image-based posts, so more likely to deliver information more frequently. Also, the Instagram model is didactic, where you may have something where both sides interact, while YouTube is unidirectional flow of information. So, when asked what these students were interested in on social media, then they used YouTube mainly for board preparation or common diagnosis. Practice with visual diagnosis, particularly spotters, is very popular among students, and review of important peer reviewed journal articles. So, visual cues are typically delivered very well with Instagram. So this is a lesser explored domain, but maybe worthwhile considering. And peer-reviewed journals in the pandemic period have really moved on to the use of infographics for communicating with the reader. So this is another domain which may do well on Instagram. And it was interesting, the frequency of social media use was positively correlated with greater comfort in using the platforms and the content on social media. So the more you use it, the more comfortable you are, and that is the user group which may benefit particularly from learning online. Unique advantages are you can share images. There can be a lot of text below it which can describe the image in detail. You can use up to 30 different hashtags, which again enhances visibility. And similar to Twitter, Instagram does not require users to mutually connect. So this is a particular advantage where you may stay anonymous or have a private account, and without really disclosing your identity, you may gain access to information that you would like. May also listen. So there can be podcasts, there are videos, and they can also talk, they can also like. So there is some level of interaction, but then there is no breach of privacy here, and privacy may be modified to allow open access if you wish. So if you are also sharing educative content, like as a teacher, then you could allow access. Also, Instagram allows multiple accounts for a single user, which again may help protecting privacy. Another major advantage is that the Instagram account being central and owned by Facebook itself, it can be linked to the other social media accounts. So for those of you who are journal editors or social media editors, and this is a unique advantage, you post there and you post everywhere. And for those who use all the accounts for learning and with different frequencies, again, this is fairly easy to post. So privacy concerns are largely addressed with Instagram, and with the use of hashtags, you may gain access to the content which you like. And the younger lot use it more. Even among the pediatric residents who were surveyed, the first year fellows were more active on platforms as compared to the second and third year fellows. And more social media users, a greater comfort in using it for med education. So this is the group that's likely to benefit. And we all agree a picture says more than 1,000 words. And in this new era of infographics, which are now widespread and the use is widespread and more prevalent than ever before, um, uh, there may be many users to this platform. Another important aspect that emerged during this pandemic is wide circulation of misinformation, which can be potentially detrimental to the human race overall in times of a pandemic. And these platforms can be a valuable tool to reach out to the uninformed public who may be rather confused and lack directionality in their thoughts with the massive overload of information all around them. And there's similar was the situation in 2015, which controversy, which is again gained momentum, as you would have heard about the research on viruses with gain of function mutation, which was curbed by the NIH and WHO. And at that time, the informed public was confused, and it was important for researchers, practitioners, and the educated lot, the experts, to speak to the informed public and deliver the key messages. And this user base is really wide. Every social media platform has a unique user base. Usually, LinkedIn is like very different from Twitter, and so is Instagram. And this was a data way back in 2014, where you see more than 70% users were outside the US, with so many likes and so many photos. And 26% of adults who were online were using Instagram, a number which I'm sure has gone up many fold in these years. So it could be useful to reach out to the lay public if you're wanting to denounce misinformation. Also, the role of social media editors and online journal accounts has visibly evolved from that being of a simply unidirectional flow of information and distributing content to a bi-directional interactive uh, nature, where we gather reactions and establish conversations. The entire scenario is changing, and now everything is more bi-directional. And in that light, uh, we could go over the case of infectious diseases on Instagram, where this specialty particularly gained uh, greater importance in recent times with the pandemic. And you see the growth in the top 10 accounts and the massive number of followers online on Instagram. So these are the Instagram accounts of ID specialists, which are clearly delivering credible information. And you see the number of followers here. Med board reviews, we mostly med students, but then there are also infectious disease physician ID, doctor infection, and which have a massive fan following. So although YouTube is conventionally used by greater proportion of students for learning, but considering that Instagram has a different user base, it may cater to an additional subset of students. Also, it is very valuable for dispelling rumors and dealing with misinformation. Now, we think that misinformation is prevalent only in times of a pandemic, but looking at this research from the University of Southampton in 2017. So it's presented at the EULAR Congress, where the author looked at health information relating to arthritis-related videos on YouTube and found that the most watched video was to self-monitor arthritis using herbal medicine followed by exercise. And unfortunately, a lot of it was misinformation, uh, pushing in for a felt need for quality control and evidence-based information. Um, these are not the only uses. Apart from this, Instagram may also be used for practice, and this is something which has been seen time and again, including in rheumatology, as we'll see later in today's talk. So in this paper, the use of the platform among dermatologists was explored, and although only 14% of dermatologists use social media related to their practice of dermatology, 75% said that they were planning to use it in future practice after residency. And this was in 2018. The use of the platform has only grown since then, the introduction of several new features and reels. And residents planning to pursue private practice were significantly more likely to plan the use of social media. There's 84 versus 31%. So clearly it works well when engaging with the lay public. And only 22% believe that dermatologists are using it safely and responsibly. The case for educating doctors and that immersion, maintaining appropriate physician boundaries, and providing private initial stages, protecting patient confidentiality, and very important time protecting the physician's privacy, which is again something very important and important to draw the distinction between a professional portfolio versus a personal one, and something which scholars need to be educated around. Importantly, very few residents had formal social media training as part of their residency curriculum. And the uses of social media, which we believe to be most helpful, were patient engagement and education, marketing, brand building, followed by networking, which is nearly 50% of individuals, public health campaigns, and then recruitment for trials, again clinic related, and academic discourses sees a meager 15%, so really trailing behind in an area which needs merits further exploration. Another thing which is maybe important and noticeable, at least in the rheumatology community, is the presence of patient support communities on Instagram. Uh, I'm aware of systemic sclerosis and myositis support communities which exist, and some patients is fairly active on the platform. And this can be a very powerful tool to educate, empower, and empathize with students, with the patients, and support these communities. And this is an attractive option, particularly because of the interactive user base of Instagram, also the outreach. Like if you're trying to share some information with patients, then you upload a reel, and Instagram has a natural algorithm which really pushes out visibility of reels. So original content, particularly to dispel misinformation or deliver credible information, would be a welcome change um, on this platform. And we did talk about this earlier. So if you think of social issues, this is the best example of an Instagram account which went viral overnight during the pandemic. It says, so you want to talk about, and largely mental health and other social issues. So you see there is 2.2 million followers, and this was, I think, maybe 4 months ago. So it would have grown since then. And a powerful medium for bringing about a social change and communicating with the patient base. So, how beautifully through stories and simple infographics, they have communicated that sadness and depression are two different things, and how to reach out for help in different countries. It is also interesting that the visual cues offered by Instagram may speak a lot, and serve in modulating mood of the users. In fact, it may give a feeling of enhanced intimacy versus the text-based platforms like Twitter. And that's why an Instagram picture may be worth more than 1,000 Twitter words. So although this domain has not been explored so far, we don't know if it is detrimental to mental health or therapeutic in some different ways. So because of this feeling of loneliness versus platform curb at times, strong patient communities may be found online. So it's a cause-effect relationship, because it helps these patient communities are online, and because they're online, there'll be more communities forming. And with this, I thought of exploring rheumatology and Instagram and PubMed searches. Very little on the subject, just 2 articles. So clearly an unexplored area, because some specialities may do better with Instagram, particularly if you have for education good rashes or radiographic images, plastic surgery, dermatology, PMR, so the pathology. So these are some of the specialities which have a lot that is image based to offer. And so myself and another colleague explored 60 different rheumatology associated Instagram accounts and evaluated their ownership, follow count, caption. This is another variable. So on searching the hashtag rheum or rheumatology on January 17, we obtained 62 results. And the content was analyzed and classified into educational, promotional, and educational promotional. Then we try to look at the caption characteristics, likes, followers, and posts. And the post characteristics like hashtags, use of text below each post, IGTV, which is a kind of video which is longer than the usual reel on Instagram, stories, and use of link tree. So links typically cannot be posted on Instagram in the bio unless you have more than 10,000 followers. You can post them, but you can't click them, so they're pretty useless. So link tree is an assistive service which, when clicked, can facilitate a tree of multiple links. So even influencers use it to direct the bio to multiple links. So then we found that there were 4 primary types of accounts, most common being clinics, nurses, doctors, nurse practitioners, hospitals. These were the most common. There were some society accounts, academic community, a few academic boards, and 2 journal accounts on Instagram related to rheumatology. So we looked at the recent posts, and there were 474 posts of the 60 accounts, because 12 accounts had less than 10 posts. And of these, as you can see, most were practitioner accounts, mainly for public publicity and connecting with the patient base, and 7 society accounts, 2 journal accounts. Some were mix of medical groups, universities, and hospitals. So the highest follow account that a rheumatology-based page could amass was 64705, which was an outlier given the others were much lower, as we'll see in a minute. And 50% were partly or fully dedicated to education, but of these only half were exclusively focused on education. So if we were to look at pure education, it will be less than 25%. Most of these were focused on educating healthcare workers and students about common rheumatic conditions, management algorithms. So usually there'll be a picture with some text on it, but other forms of information delivery on Instagram were less utilized, like IGTV was hardly ever used, although it's fairly good, and Reels highly underutilized. Reels are a very effective means of communication on Instagram, but typically underutilized. And nearly 25% of accounts had a mixed purpose in that they focused on both promotion and education. And the vast majority of these were practitioner accounts, and some rheumatology society accounts and online support groups for rheumatology patients. So looking at the types of posts, the most popular was an image with a text like this, or pictures of disease, lab tests of patients. Headline graphics are where there is just a headline there and nothing else on a page. And catchy images were occasionally found to disseminate content. Radiologic images were also extremely popular, and bio links were used only by 60%. And these accounts are typically way more active and clearly paid attention to connecting with their user base. So these are the top 10 room accounts on Instagram. As you can see, the number of followers is highest for global rheumatology, where the average number of likes per post is 28, used for education and promotion, which is an online rheumatology community. The others were far lower in the range of 100 to 200. Rheumatology nurses be the next highest, which is a nursing society. And they were fairly diverse, ranging from Qatar to the Indian Rheumatology Association of Gujarat in India, and Association of Women in Rheumatology, which is based out of the United States. So it was widespread globally. These were the kind of posts. So these are the 2 journal accounts which are associated with Instagram. So this is the Journal of Clinical Rheumatology, and clearly we see that the posts relating to images, they had fewer more likes, while here again image-based posts seem to be more popular. So if you were to ask, critically analyze this talk and ask how does it score about the other social media platforms, the biggest motivation for using Instagram would be that 40% of learners respond better to visual information than text alone. And incorrect use of visuals can also deter learners, as you see here. So Instagram, when used rightly, may be useful to deliver information. And notably, Instagram is not a component of altmetric score, so it is not going to help you push your internet visibility higher in a metric sense, not as of now, although we do foresee that in the near future it may be incorporated into the AAS. But if you use it properly and with copious use of hashtags, then you can gain visibility. The articles may gain visibility with proper use, proper description. Like the Lancet account on Instagram has a very high number of followers. So the question, should I use Instagram for scholarly purposes? Yes, you definitely could. Promote learning, engaging with colleagues. If you're a teacher, then teaching, maybe connecting with patients, recruitment for trials. People have done that. You should go check out those papers. So Instagram has untapped academic potential. particularly for certain specialties. Distinct engagement may give it an edge, and addition to alt metrics may add value in the future. Thank you.
Dear Latika, thank you very much for your eye-catching and excellent presentation on Instagram. According to statistics, India is one of the leading country with the most Instagram users, about 140 millions Instagram users. We also have participants from different countries such as Poland, Turkey, Bulgaria, US. What about, are there any differences in social media using between scholars from different countries?
Yeah, definitely. That is something to look out for. In fact, recently I had this discussion with the Apple colleagues, and notably, Asian colleagues are almost absent on Twitter. So, and Japanese scholars, you barely find them on Twitter. So clearly, the use of social media platforms is very different in different countries. Some of the Central Asian countries have regulatory issues and logistic issues. China has its own different platforms. So for scholarly engagement, clearly that can be one of the central themes that are innovative to learning. So with Instagram, I'm not sure how much the users in other countries, but yeah, India, it's fairly popular.
I understood that in India, Instagram is the most popular social media platform. And as a social media editor, you also actively use Instagram for post-publication article promotion.
Yes, it's very good, except that the link doesn't direct to the website usually. So oftentimes publishers are not that interested, but then you can use Linktree to bypass that.
Well, thank you very much, Bogdana from Ivano-Frankivsk. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. So first of all, many thanks. I really like all your presentations. So they are usually inspiring for some new ideas. Actually, I was pleased to see also that picture in one of the first slides. I'm not sure how its tool is called, so or was or VOS viewer. So I also have used it for lately for my thesis. So it's really nice when we can use the infographics and it can more easily express all that we wanted to tell. But actually I wanted to ask and go a little bit back or out from the Instagram back to the Twitter. So you're doing really a great job as the social media editor in a few of journals. But I would like to ask you, have you noticed maybe some increase of the citations in that journals where you are working after your active actions on Twitter and interaction with the readers, etc.? So, or it's doesn't lead to some rapid increase of the citations?
So thanks, Anna, for your kind words and also in-depth analysis. And very important question. So this is something which has baffled people always, that do alt metrics translate into citations, because citation is a traditional metric of success. And so the answer to this is not very straightforward. So there are so many different publications on the subject. And if you dig deep into it, you'll find that people have found correlations varying from 0.2 to 0.7 with the citations. So, and the best papers on this are, I think, by a person called Eisenbach, most likely, published in JMI, and has very conducted in-depth analysis on how popular a tweet went, and the first 7 days of a tweet are crucial. So typically people have shown that it depends on the platform where you're getting the altmetric attention score from. And if it is on Mendeley or a ResearchGate or F1000, where you have only scholars. So it depends who's reading your research, right? Like, so if the scholar is reading, my research is read by you, you're publishing. So I publish on systemic sclerosis, you read it, so more likely to cite it when you're writing your paper. So, but if it is in a newspaper, then the lay public it reaches the lay public. Now, Twitter has a very varied fan base and depends on which community you're active on. it will vary. So that's why the studies on Twitter are highly varied. Again, in the pandemic times, I feel everything got skewed because citations were very rapid. And altmetric attention scores also did go up, but then soon there was such a massive flux of information that people were overwhelmed. I've noticed trends. I handle one American journal, the Pathology journal, and one Indian journal. And with the same posting frequency, I have wondered, like, the American journal does better. So I thought maybe it's better pictures. I don't know. Maybe the publisher is doing a better job. But I realized eventually the user base, because it's a USA location. So I think in the West, people use more of Twitter, and in Asia, they're just absent on Twitter. And they're more active on Facebook. Eastern Europe is also more of Facebook, and then Japan, China, you know, these have different platforms. Among Asian countries, I was surprised to see that the most active rheumatologists were from Philippines, not from other countries. So I feel like there's no direct correlation as such. It also depends on your journal. So suppose you're publishing in an American journal, you're publishing or in a top journal, so ARD, so people are more likely to follow it. So, you know, your altmetrics would automatically go up. Not always, of course, articles that go there are likely to be better in quality, but then it's also more likely to be noticed because it is in that journal. So it's a vicious loop, and I would suggest you refer to a bunch of papers in JMIR, dating way back to 2011. They've conducted very detailed and very proficient with statistics and adjusted analysis for all the variables. And the answer is there's no clear answer, but it does enhance visibility, it does enhance citation, but the correlation is not direct. And it depends on your location, platform, paper, time of the day, how it does in the first 7 days, a lot of different variables. But that being said, the advantages of being on Twitter are manifold. I would say I just started out teaching students and just posting whatever, because it was also a good archival platform. Like if we read 100 papers in a day, and if we just post the 5 important ones when we are writing a paper, we can easily go and find them in our own tweets. Like I'm sure Dr. Gasparian will vouch for it. He is an avid reader, and I think he does the same. And then on Twitter, you start gaining followers when you have original content. So you form your online community, you're teaching, you're learning, and I feel the advantages are manifold beyond citations.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Latika. One more question from our participants, from Turkey. Rheumatologist Neslihan. Thank you for your valuable presentation. As you mentioned, sharing patients' photos on Instagram can be educative and attractive. Can sharing original articles be effective as sharing photos? How can we increase its attractiveness by using Instagram?
So typically pictures do better than words. And the other thing which is popular on Instagram is turn text into pictures. So have a blank infographic post in which you write few text that is digested information, the key message that you're trying to convey, or you break down the percentages just like a PowerPoint slide. And it could be way simple, just like designing a PowerPoint slide and posting a bunch of them as story or as a group of 3 or 4 photos, or you can use other tools like Canva. What I commonly do is if a particular article already has a catchy image, use that. And you can post tables, they don't do as well. And of course, if you look at the pyramid, then infographics do the best. So it depends how you want to promote it. You may design the infographic, you can design a video abstract and push it out as a reel, which will really be visible on Instagram. Or you could do something way simpler and just post a picture of the abstract when you're feeling lazy. You just take a screenshot of the abstract, highlight it.
Yes, it's really great idea to create a video abstract. Thank you, Latika. Dr. Arman, would you like to ask something?
Yeah. Latika is one of the leading experts in social media and particularly Instagram. She is now experimenting with Instagram, doing research to understand its uses, limitations. And Latika, you mentioned about promotion activities on Instagram, particularly in the field of rheumatology. I would be very surprised to see Rheumatology Oxford Journal using Instagram for promotion of drugs, medical technologies. What type of promotion you detected on Instagram based on your research?
So most of these were individual practitioners or a group practice who were promoting their enterprise, like their clinic, or if they have a nursing home, a tiny hospital. So it was mostly those in practice. And the way they would attract to patients is one, deliver some information which is useful, and minor subtle form of advertising, like a picture of the building or the interiors occasionally. So it is a mixed bag.
I see, yes. So we had some unfortunate incidents on Facebook with promotion of post related to drug therapy. So moderator of rheumatology group warned us that this type of information may, may be perceived by patients as a direct recommendation to use that drug therapy. So we should be very careful on all open access channels, including Instagram, when we promote uh, articles with a message on drug therapy, whether it's aimed to professional to or lay or just public. We should be very careful, and we should somehow encrypt that information or guide users to read text, professional text on original website instead of using digestible information on Instagram and Facebook. So these type of tips are useful for social media editors, and I hope that all social media accounts of rheumatology and other journals are not affected, are not abused by our moderators who uh, may promote drug therapies, medical technologies, just without knowing consequences of that type of promotion.
Latika, I am going to update my personal Instagram account after your presentation.
Yeah,
and probably I will open Instagram account for some journals, rheumatology journals.
The question by Neslihan Gokchen was whether Instagram, whether sharing photos and videos is as effective as sharing texts. So I would slightly change the question and ask all of us whether it's worth using Instagram for all type of all journal types. No, in my opinion, Instagram can be used by rheumatology, rehabilitation, dermatology, anatomy, and other journals dealing with graphics, with visual materials, this type of things, by pathology specialists who also use biopsy materials. It can be also used on Instagram. And in Turkey, in Iran, Instagram is one of the main channels of streaming their e-conferences, webinars. They rarely or never use Zoom, Twitter, Facebook. They mainly use Instagram. So we should also know about country-based specifics of using social media channels. So any thoughts on this, Latika? Just brief thoughts.
Yes, I have certainly seen that images, pathology images, they do great on Instagram. And I totally agree that it makes sense. And these specialities, you're just browsing and learning on the go. So there's more potential there. Although if the speciality is not typically image based, or the information you're delivering is textual, still there is room to do a lot. Like we looked at the one with So You Want to Talk About, it was all about text, but then you had to like put in a lot of effort in designing them, and of course the effort required is different. But now I think with social media everything is evolving and constantly in a change of state of flux. Like people are even saying that blogs are on their way out, so it'll be just vlogging, So the more fast-paced the information. So vlogs are like, and they are also like a series of pictures sometimes, like 2 to 2 seconds it changes. So attention spans are shrinking, and the information there out there is increasing. So there is room, I think, for all specialties to put things up there, because radiology is like, radiologic images are part of most specialties. But yes, I agree that rashes or like PMR, where they're like movements, examination, like those specialties likely to do better.
Thank you, Latika.
So we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully everything will be getting better in the coming weeks or months in India. So, and you will be more available for lecturing at our webinars. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Dr.
Latika.
Latika Gupta, the leading social media expert, one of the ongoing research fellows in India, and one of the best ongoing journal editors. So she's a shining star in South Asia and hopefully also in the rest of the world. Thank you.
The same things I can say about Dr. Arman, who is an editor of several influential medical journals. Also reviewer of Scopus, expert reviewer of Scopus database, and author more than 100 English indexed articles. Dr. Arman is going to talk about open access tools for scientific information dissemination. Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's get started. So today I'm going to discuss with our participants open access tools, platforms, and social media channels which can be used for research and post-publication promotion based on ethical principles. So Latika Gupta touched on Instagram as one of the emerging and popular social media channel, which is also open access channel. All specialists, public representatives may access Instagram and may benefit, and at the same, some users, online users, particularly patients without proper knowledge of diseases, medical technologies, may also abuse that information and harm their health or health of their relatives. So we should be very careful, and we should cautiously approach, cautiously process information from all social media channels, all open access channels, because there is, particularly in the time of pandemic, there is a barrage of misinformation from all corners of the world, in India, even in developed countries. So we cannot rely on knowledge of our online users. So we should always try to moderate information, process, digest that information, and then deliver messages, posts to public, to online users. So I am going to start my presentation with the phrase or quote of the day related to open access and social media. Technology is best when it brings people together. So social media, particularly some channels like Twitter, Facebook, serve to their purpose, and they unite special interest groups, professionals, and at the same time, they may unite patients. So we may benefit a lot from open access tools, channels, and we should be very careful when we're sharing information on open access channels. So what is it? Open access is something that used by professionals, but not all professionals use the same definition of open access. So first of all, open access, it means that scholarly information is available to all public users, online users. Open access is one of the main parts of digitization. So without digitization, without use of digital identifiers for journals, individuals, universities, and other structures, it's impossible to promote, to move forward with open access initiative. So open access relates to preprints. I'm not going to discuss preprints today because there are many pros and contras related to preprints, but there is a huge amount of data about institutional repositories which can be used and can increase visibility, particularly in non-mainstream science countries. Social media and scholarly networks may also be related to open access and help to share information about scholarly articles, dissertation, and other scholarly items, videos, audio-video materials, free databases, databases that can be used by public, or registries like Directory of Open Access Journals. It's one of the main open access platforms for sharing information and also for organizing open access journals and increasing their ethical standing. Permanent archiving. We all know about PubMed Central, but those who cannot approach or who cannot archive their journals by PubMed Central may use other permanent digital archives. We'll discuss these digital archives in a bit. Without permanent archiving, you will struggle with open access, you will struggle with registering your journal with digital object, with Directory of Open Access Journals. So open peer review, it's also one of the important initiatives in the era of open access and digitization. Now we have Pablons, other platforms for crediting peer reviewers, and all these review crediting platforms help to increase visibility of the best reviewers, most active, and also journal editors may approach Pablons and other review platforms and pick their reviewers from these platforms. Article and contributor identifiers like Digital Object Identifier, DOI, and ORCID IDs are also part of digitization and open access. In the era of open access, we use Authenticate to detect items with overlapping texts, overlapping materials, and Digital Object Identifier helps us to track similar or overlapping materials. So be very careful when you publish in journals with digital object identifiers. If you wish to republish your article somewhere else, you should obtain permission from primary publisher. In Eastern Europe, in Central Asia, it's a big issue. So you should warn your authors to avoid duplicate publications in journals with digital object identifiers. So we all, as medics, we always use medical subject headings, and medical subject headings is part of National Library of Medicine. It's structured vocabulary, and based on their definition of open access or open access publishing, it's a phrase, keyword, structured keyword that will be used by me for searching Scopus, and you will see how useful this keyword is. So it's based, this definition is based on Bethesda Statement on Open Access Publishing, which was issued in 2003 in Bethesda, US. So it deals with two important points: copyright transfer to authors and quality or of permanent archiving of contents. So open access, it all ends up with copyrights retained by authors and quality digitization of published articles and permanent archiving. So these 2 points are important for meeting quality open access publishing. So I also ask all our participants to increase visibility of their journals, to digitize their journals, meet best standards of open access publishing, and transfer copyrights to their authors. Authors should retain copyrights on articles or intellectual property they produced. So I frequently use Scopus. So it's not surprising because Scopus is one of the largest databases, one of the most democratic, one of in terms of in view of scholarly coverage. So it covers largest number of journals, peer-reviewed journals, quality journals, and there is no bias towards any language. So Scopus covers numerous languages, journals published in numerous languages. So one of the main tools of Scopus is analytical tool, allowing to process information based on structured keyword or logical keyword, like open access. You may use either open access or open access publishing. Open access publishing is more professional, more structured keyword. This is why I use this keyword and retrieved more than 1,800 Scopus indexed items published over the past 20 years, 2 decades. So you see, I can count, I can calculate percentage of the most common keywords related to open access publishing. Periodicals as topic, access to information, information dissemination, etc. However, you should know that big data processing requires software, and this type of software or platform is created by Dutch specialists. It's called forResearchers. It's their brand, and now it's used widely by scholars for processing big data, particularly from bibliographic databases such as Scopus. And you see density or weight of keywords related to open access. So this type of image nowadays is frequently used by researchers, PhD candidates who deal again with thousands of scholarly articles by journal editors who need to understand which are the main or most important topics, fields of interest in their area, in their professional area. And this type of information is obtained from forResearchers. I'll discuss this forResearchers platform a bit later, but for now, just please note that this graphic allows us to understand which keywords closely relate to open access. You see ethics, you see trends, you see coronavirus disease, bibliometrics. So in the era of open access, we have a number of advantages in scholarly publishing because of greater visibility of published articles and higher chances of citations and altmetrics. So I'll continue analyzing in Scopus, and it allows me to understand which countries are most active in the field. Of course, United States and other developed countries. So we may analyze annual publication activity and pay attention to years with peak activity, publication activity. Understand why in certain periods, publication activity related to open access or other specialist keywords is increasing. We may also pay attention to leading authors in the field of open access. I know that all these specialists are, including me, are interested in open access, in using software for increasing visibility and improving outreach uh, in Europe, elsewhere in the world. And you, as Eastern European specialists, may also use open access channels to increase your networking, to increase visibility of your own articles, your own journals, and also increase chances of indexing. Although Scopus and other bibliographic databases do not pay attention to social media channels of your journals, but they pay attention to strategies of post-publication promotion. So if you need to increase visibility to attract more citations towards your journal, the best and initial step is to launch social media channel like Twitter, the most popular social media channel, like Facebook, or for rheumatology, PMR, dermatology, orthopedics journals, anatomy journals, Instagram channel. So you may increase chances of attracting a lot of attention to your journal. So we also pay attention to which subject areas, which academic disciplines are more involved in the field of open access. So open access is not just for medics, it's an area of interest to social scientists, uh, chemists, biochemists, computer scientists, because computer scientists create online platform, digital platforms for advancing open access global movement. We also pay attention to journals which extensively publish in certain fields, particularly in relation to open access publishing keywords. So we see that Nature is concerned with most concerned with open access, and they published more than 100 articles tagged with open access publishing in their titles, abstracts, and keywords, indexed keywords. So it's one of the largest and evidence-based scientific journals, Nature, which is concerned with ethics of open access publishing. So you probably remember that one of our previous webinars was attended by Jeffrey Beall, who published his news item about predatory open access publishing in 2012 in Nature, and that article was well promoted on social media channels and also attracted a lot of citations from all over the world. So, but Jeffrey Beall's article is not the top cited item related to open access publishing. Another item from BMC Medicine is the most or top cited item. We may analyze that item in detail, pay attention to context of citations and social media attention. We may also use Scopus to retrieve top 50 or 100 highly cited items and produce tables analyzing all these 50 or 100 items. And you may also draft bibliometric article based on analysis of these top cited items. So PhD candidates, research managers may use this strategy to produce good quality articles for specialist journals and also for bibliometric journals that like Scientometrics. So now I'm analyzing this top cited article related to open access publishing, and attention, I draw my attention to most attractive channels which pay close attention to these particular article. So you see that in quantitative terms, Mendeley bookmarkings uh, are in abundance. 487 Mendeley bookmarkings. It's a lot. We know that Mendeley bookmarkings usually predict citations. The higher Mendeley bookmarkings, the greater chances of attracting citations, whether on Dimensions platform or Scopus platform. I also pay close attention to tweets, and I can use these parameters for my article, bibliometric and altmetric article. So I also encourage all today participants, particularly those who are going to write articles on bibliometrics, process numbers coming from Mendeley platform, Twitter platform, and also pay attention whether the article was commented on news outlets, news media, blogs. Why? Because news channels, news outlets, newspapers, your university websites have huge traffic, huge weight, and any post on related post on news outlets is counted well. The same refers to blogs. So having news channels, university channels, or well attractive, popular blogs increase weight of your posts on these channels. And of course, altmetric algorithm also differently weighs information from different social media channels. Now, about Medline, you all know that Medline is an abstract database. It's quite a conservative database because over the past 5-10 years, the number of index journals ranged between 5,500 to 5,300. So the numbers are rigid over the past 5-10 years, not changing. Why? Because requirements for indexing by Medline are strict. So they pay attention to evidence base, to quality of articles in many ways. So, but alongside Medline, we have PubMed Central, and PubMed Central is more acceptable, more open towards emerging journals, journals with open access journals with quality contents, quality in terms of XML conversion, technical quality, and also scientific quality, evidence-based, something that may be useful to medics, biomedics, and allied specialists. Both Medline as a bibliographic database and PubMed Central as a repository are used extensively by biomedics and allied specialists. If we wish to find out the number of currently indexed journals, we may go to National Library of Medicine catalog and find out whether there are any journals in our countries, in Ukraine, in Eastern European countries, in Poland. So I would say that unfortunately, Ukraine does not have any PubMed Central archived journals. There are some Medline index journals, but unfortunately no any PubMed Central archived journals. It's because of difficulties with XML conversion, and probably also because of scientific quality of open access journals. If we wish to look at PubMed Central journals, we again go to National Library of Medicine and again may analyze journals in our field of interest, rheumatology. Currently archives around 17 journals in countries like Turkey, Poland, etc., etc. But we should also know that Lead COVID Hub was created last year in March by specialists who transferred information from PubMed Central platform, all items related to COVID-19, to a designated platform called Lead COVID, and again, it's open access platform for medics. And the number of items is impressive, around 130,000 COVID-19 articles. You can see on this map that Central Asia, Mongolia, some African countries are in gray because these countries rarely or never produced PubMed indexed COVID-19 articles. So we may also pay attention to US, China. These countries are leading producers of COVID-19 articles, and may analyze also monthly publication activity. Why last year in August, the number of COVID-19 articles peaked, because it was relatively calm period, August 2020, and we all hope that everything will be better. But unfortunately, situation is not had not been getting better, because there is no seasonal trend in pandemic. So we're still in the midst of pandemic, and we're still interested in COVID-19 articles, and this is why Lead COVID Hub open access platform can be used by our researchers and clinicians as well. In terms of permanent preservation of contents, all our Eastern European scholars, particularly from Ukraine, should know that LOCS is a product of Stanford University, used by open journal system. And if you have advanced open access open journal system, OJS system for your journals, all contents displayed or posted on OJS platform of your journal will be permanently archived and preserved by Stanford University, by LOCS permanent archiving platform. But there are also other platforms like CLOCS, like PubMed Central, also considered as a permanent digital archive or digital repository. So here is one of the good examples from Central Asia, journal which is hosted on OJS platform, powered by Open Science in Ukraine. All contents archived by LOC platform, because the journal is posted on advanced OJS platform, powered by Open Science in Ukraine. And I strongly encourage all our Eastern European journals to pay attention whether they have good open access, open journal system, allowing them to automatically transfer contents to Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ, to Crossref, to JGate, and other platforms. All these platforms are open access platforms, and the basis of all these navigations, easy navigations, is open journal system. Now you see that even leading top rheumatology journal also uses LOCKSS system of Stanford University to permanently archive open access and subscription articles. But they also use Portico, more expensive. LOCKSS is basic archiving system for developing countries, emerging scientific powers, whereas PubMed Central, Portico require more advanced archiving systems, archiving strategies, and you know that PubMed Central archiving, which is based on JATS XML language, is the best for medics and allied specialists. Open access journals should be also visible on aggregators. So the best open access journals, ethical open access journals, are usually listed by Sherpa Romeo. It's UK-based registry of the best open access journals. And I hope, again, that all Eastern European open access journals from Ukraine, Poland, Turkey, Lithuania, and other Eastern European countries will extensively display or register their journals with Sherpa Romeo. And of course, the best open access platform for for searches. DOAJ is a registry, not bibliographic database, but DOAJ is also used for systematic and comprehensive searches, particularly of items in Ukraine, in other emerging scientific powers. Why in Ukraine? Because in Ukraine there are many open access journals not covered by Scopus, not covered by Medline, PubMed Central, but still visible on DOAJ platform. This is why we may benefit, our Eastern European scholars may benefit from searches of through DOAJ, because 380 DOAJ listed journals are now processed by DOAJ. You see some examples of the best quality journals with DOAJ seal. I'll present criteria of DOAJ seal, and you will see that these open access journals are punctual, technically advanced journals, and this is why they got DOAJ seal of excellence. From Ukraine, we have 19 index journals. There are some countries where this number is higher. But at the moment, there are only 19 out of 380 DOAJ index journals. And one of the best medical journals is Galician Medical Journal. I'm sure the editors of this journal also follow our recommendations. They watch our webinars, and they also improve, advance their platform. And they also use XML for increasing visibility, for transferring contents to numerous online platforms. Poland. Today we have 3 participants from Białystok and from Krakow, and I thank them for their attention, and I prepared this slide for them. They should also know that the number of DOAJ listed journals from Poland is the highest from Eastern Europe. 712 indexed or listed journals. I would use DOAJ is a registry, not bibliographic database, and we use indexing when it refers to bibliographic database. However, you see that the number of Polish journals with DOAJ seal of quality or excellence is just 12. So not so high, and it's probably most Polish journals were registered earlier, whereas all those with advanced technologies can meet DOAJ seal criteria. Journals with DOAJ seal of excellence are considered as the best the most informative and adjustable with various online platforms and systems. So Duach uses its own XML conversion system, and I know that Open Science in Ukraine automatically transfers information to Duach without any difficulties. So they have their own XML language. So not all XML languages are the same. So we have XML language for Crossref, for PubMed Central, for JGate, Indian service, etc., etc., for Duach as well. So, Duach seal. First of all, those who are going to uh, apply for Duach seal of excellence should have digital preservation of their contents on logs, on PubMed Central, or other reliable digital repositories. They should have DOIs or other permanent identifiers. All metadata should be automatically or should be transferred to Duach without any delay. Journals should use certain license type. The most liberal license type is CC BY license, Creative Commons license, where copyrights retained by authors, the most liberal, the most democratic license for open access journals. And license information should be machine readable, available in articles, in all articles of a journal applying for that seal. Copyrights and publishing rights should be strictly mentioned, should be, of course, uh, processed in a way to allow authors to freely reuse published articles for archiving, promotion, scholarly promotion, and other financial or non-financial purposes. And of course, self-archiving policy should be also used by journals. Like we have numerous Eastern European journals available on ResearchGate. It's considered as social networking platform, social media. These platforms also can be used for self-archiving published articles by authors themselves. So self-archiving is also possible via institutional repositories. So I hope that all Polish, Ukrainian, and Turkish scientists will also archive their published articles, dissertations, and other open access materials with their institutional or university repositories. So here is one of the one of the best examples of journals for today. Galician Medical Journal. You probably know that Galicia is one of the best parts of Ukraine, hub of knowledge, where we have numerous universities, particularly in Lviv and Ivano-Frankivsk, and their journal, Galician Medical Journal, is archived, is registered with Directory of Open Access Journals, and pay attention. They use XML to tag metadata and also references some parts of article to transfer this part of information to JGate and other online platforms. So using XML alongside PDF and HTML files increases visibility and transferability of your articles. So I know that these journal editors hire technician, IT specialists who uses XML files, generates XML files. So in terms of visibility, we should mention about certain strategic points. Again, it's important to emerging science countries like Ukraine, like some other Eastern European countries. If you publish a journal, you should provide transparency of in-house and peer review policies and practices. You should have professional editorial teams. You, as editors, should concentrate on your local issues, and you should solicit actively articles of interest to your local readers. I know that some Ukrainian journals switch to English and start uh, soliciting or inviting articles primarily from Turkey. Why? Because most Turkish authors draft and publish their articles in English. Of course, they also refer to editing agencies to rectify their language, but Ukrainian journals should know that they should publish articles of interest to their readers in Ukraine, in their part of world. There was also one unfortunate incident recently. A journal, Ukrainian journal, applied to reputable bibliographic database, and one of their main experts' concern was that applicant journal accepted a lot of articles, useless, so-called useless articles that were written by foreign authors, not by local, not by Ukrainian, in English, and these articles were useless for local or regional readership. So this is one of the most important points for applicant journals. You should display, you should publish articles, whether by Turkish, whether by Polish or other scientists, of interest to your local audience. Do not forget about this point. And of course, try to increase visibility of your articles by asking your Ukrainian and Polish authors to provide ORCID identifiers. ORCID is a flower. It's pronounced orchid. For better to memorize this abbreviation, ORCID IDs should contain brief biographical notes about scholars. They should also list academic accomplishments of a scholar, of an author, articles, peer review accomplishments, editorial accomplishments, and this type of information should be checked by journal editors. So now about Pablons. You probably know about this platform. I'm going to analyze Ukrainian reviewer activity. We have more than 46,000 registered reviewers, potential reviewers with Pablons. However, not all of them are active. Not all of them are top reviewers, so I'll display some of them now. You see that peer review awards from Pablons received only 14 Ukrainian scholars, most active scholars. And most of these are from Danilo Halitsky, Ivano-Frankivsk universities, from Bohomolets, and other top Ukrainian academic institutions. So recent activity also impressive because we have numerous reviewers, but not all of them produce numerous reviews. So probably it's because of pandemic. Hopefully next year or this year situation will improve, we'll see. We may analyze top 10 Ukrainian universities presented or displayed on Pablon's platform. And this type of information is also useful because you may attract a lot of research funding, research grants, if your researcher is active, particularly research grants from US, from Western world, because Pablons is now part of Web of Science group. And you see that Danila Halitsky Lviv National Medical University is one of the top universities in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine. We are analyzing Ukraine. And the most active medical university with more than 800 validated reviewer comments. So we may analyze these, we may concentrate on this university, and we see that at the moment there are only 2 top reviewers. I am sure that these 2 reviewers deserve credits from Pablons and also from their own university. Now about ResearchGate. You know about ResearchGate as a social media platform, but I would strongly encourage our journal editors to use this platform for posting PDFs of their articles to increase visibility of their journals. We all should know about ethics recommendations from leading editorial institutions. Today we are going to discuss some of ethical points related to social media use, and Committee on Publication Ethics guides us all about using post-publication promotion channels for scholarly promotion of our articles, particularly in our journals. So core practices of COP, point number 10, deals specifically with post-publication promotion on reliable channels like Twitter, like PubPeer, or probably there are other platforms. Pablons also can be considered as a post-publication promotion channel. So I encourage all Eastern European journal editors to open their channel, their account, or improve quality of their account, automatically generated account on Pablons, and populate that account with reviewer comments. We should know about DORA Declaration, San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment. Why it's important? Because we should never use any single metric for evaluating scholarly activity, whether it's journal publication or individual research activity. Never use any single metric like journal impact factor, like quartile of a journal in Web of Science or Scopus. Never use any single journal metric as a proxy of quality. You should use a variety of metrics to understand research output, context, research output implications, and societal impact. This is why we should combine traditional citation metrics with alt metrics, with tweets, with Facebook mentions, with blogs, blog posts, news outlets, posts on news outlets. So always consider a variety of bibliometric and altmetric indicators which should be more valuable for journal and individual researcher evaluation. So now about social media. We all know about social media as a mesh term, which was introduced in 2012. So few points about social media for research, social media accounts for research groups. Official journal accounts should be moderated by professional social media editors. Today, Latika Gupta was our guest speaker, and we benefited a lot from her guidance on how to launch Instagram account. The same accuracy should be applied to Twitter, Facebook, or any other social media account. We should pay attention whether top journals in our field of interest have a social media account, and we should consult that account, why it's important, what is present on that account. Uh, Social media accounts, whether it's for journal or for individual use, should have a lot of followers. Journal accounts with limited number of followers are useless. So try to increase outreach towards online users. Follow relevant societies or other influencers, social media influencers. Regularly check and block unethical users who promote drugs, medical technologies, or commercial editing services. So I know that in Eastern Europe there are some unethical agencies promoting their commercial activities. So stop that activity. Do not allow them to post their promotions on social media. Block these posts. Check and delete unbiased posts. Focus on your journal or your own professional interests. You may use Twitter handles to promote your articles. It's a tactics that can be used also by Eastern European journal editors. Avoid copyright violations. Avoid posting patients' images, unblinded, unmasked, or even masked images that may have sensitive information, disturbing sensitive information. And delete personal accounts, personal comments, insulting comments, or politically incorrect comments. So I always refer to top journals in our field and also in allied fields, and I pay attention how many tweets are generated, how many followers pay attention to tweets, posts on social media. I never pay attention to number journal or society follows. So because this number can be closer to zero. The most important indicator is number of followers. And of course, on Twitter, and of course on Facebook also, we should provide URL link to a journal, to a society, to help users navigate from Twitter account to more professional, to site which contains more professional information of interest to professionals. So you see that this top rheumatology journal has a group, social media advisors team, and all these team members, um, 7 members, they actively promote different types of articles in their field of narrow professional interest. How we can use social media to promote our own articles? Of course, you know, PubMed platform has plugins, social media plugins like Twitter, Facebook, and we can use these plugins to share information, to transform information from PubMed platform to our individual journal, on our personal accounts and journal accounts. We may also use dimensions, particularly Eastern European, Ukrainian journal editors may use dimensions to promote their articles not indexed by Medline, Scopus, Web of Science. Uh, Top journals have plugins on their journal accounts, journal platforms like OJS and other platforms. And, you know, open access journals are benefiting a lot from these social media plugins. These are for sharing information about specific articles with or without comments. So comments with professional views are valued more. Twitter helps us to increase immediacy effect of our articles. So once we tweet, a lot of social media users pay attention and share information about our articles. So before we aggregate or garner citations to our articles, individual or journal articles, we collect tweets, Facebook mentions, social media attention, blog posts related to our articles, and then wait for citations. So some publishers, BMJ and other well-known publishers, global publishers, publicized their guidelines for social media uh, uses and misuses. So when you launch your journal account, you should know who are your users, followers. You should focus on your professional field. Try to avoid any unprofessional posts that may damage health of your patients or lay community. You should be transparent and truthful. Avoid any connection with pharmaceutical industry or medical technologies, and avoid promotional tweets. Uh, you also should avoid uh, personal insults, heated discussions on Twitter or other social media posts, because all these posts will be watched by public and non-professionals, and it's not so ethical to share this type of professional disputes with patients and other non-professionals. Do not admit mistakes, language and other mistakes, and correct these mistakes. Edit your comments. Do aware that anything you post on internet is permanently archived somewhere, even after deleting your posts. So always try to post valuable professional contents. Oxford, Taylor and Francis also produced 10 commandments or 10 points about social media use. I strongly encourage to go through these 10 points. Try to adjust these points to your practice. The same refers to Springer Nature. They also have their own guidelines. You may also use Oxford University Press, particularly our Indian fellows, Indian Journal of Rheumatology. They closely follow regulations in Britain, in Oxford University Press, and I am sure they will also have their own social media policies related somehow to their friendly publishers or publishers in Anglophone countries. So when you use tweets, when you launch Twitter accounts, you may also use Twitter handles of your corresponding authors, display these Twitter handles and increase visibility of individual articles. Encourage post-publication communication. Journals, again, leading orthopedic journals also pay attention to this type of information, and they benefit a lot from sharing information via Twitter, via Facebook, LinkedIn. LinkedIn may be used by some business-oriented journals, organizations, societies, but Facebook and Twitter more useful. In Eastern European, you probably may have your own social media preferences. You see another journal, BMC journal, Springer Nature journal, they integrated with altmetric.com, and they display trending articles in their field. Top 10 trending articles based on altmetric attention score. And they also pay attention to other usage, to other non-traditional or alternative metrics, and encourage their readers to follow this journal on Twitter. Well-organized journal, well-organized Twitter account. So a message for our participants, go to altmetric.com, download in your computers Bookmarklet tool. It's easy, and use Bookmarklet or Altmetric it tool for analyzing individual articles with digital object identifier. It's also important to suggest new valuable social media and other online platform that would benefit, that would enrich altmetric information aggregation. So I often suggest to altmetric.com valuable blogs, valuable news outlets, particularly in English, but this platform also open to non-English news outlets, university websites. So you can also benefit from posting information on your university accounts, which may be processed also by altmetric.com. If you are not, if you are unsure, you may apply, when you may send the information about valuable university links, university websites, newspaper websites to altmetric.com and suggest them to cover this information. Now about altmetric donut or altmetric ring, which is composed of numerous social media channels output or attention surrounding journals and individual articles. So pay attention to different colors, particularly to Twitter. I always pay attention to this blue uh, um, ring. Also, I know that red is for news outlets, orange is for blogs. So these are well weighted, most weighted channels for social media promotion. So this is end of my first first presentation. I am open to questions from Poland, Turkey, from Bulgaria, and Ukraine.
Dear Armen, thank you very much for your comprehensive and relevant presentation on open access tools for scholars. You provide us with innovative approaches to information searches and presentation. And I'm sure that our participants, after your presentation, will experiment, for example, with WOS viewer to generate eye-catching maps, experiment with Altmetric also. Thank you very much. And you see that we have one question from rheumatologist from Turkey, Neslihan. Thank you for your great presentation. I believe that open access journals help us to improve our visibility, but open access publication charts can be an obstacle for academic from developing countries. Thus, appropriate policies towards payment of article publications charts are needed. What is your opinion about challenges in open access publishing?
Okay, my personal opinion is that researchers from Ukraine, emerging scientific powers, should have, and also researchers without research funding should have an opportunity to publish their best articles with top open access journals, whether it's RMD Open, PMR Open, or other top rheumatology rehabilitation journals. If your articles are accepted by these journals, you may claim that you have limited funding, and journal editors should be flexible towards your requests, and publish without publication charges. However, we know that some journals in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, are surviving and they need open access charges. Of course, they also need to know about ethics of open access publishing, how you can ethically charge your authors, and why at all you need to charge your authors. So open access publication charges vary from one journal to another, and it also depends on what type of article you present. If it is Nobel Prize winning article, it's better to publish with that open access journal at all costs. To obtain funding and to publish your article with Nature and publish it for open access, pay $10,000 for Nature journal. But for all other uh, scientists, another recommendation is to target platinum open access journals that do not charge authors at all. So try to publish with platinum open access journals and ignore all journal metrics like Q quartiles, like journal impact factor, like site score. Pay attention whether journal is worth publishing something.
Yes, but often these journal metrics often are required, for example, for PhD students for obtaining scientific degree.
Okay.
For promotion, academic
yeah.
promotion, yes.
Yeah, and I understand your concern, particularly in Kazakhstan.
Yes.
Today we have Ainur Kumar from Almaty, and she is one of my fellows who defended her PhD dissertation years ago. But now situation is different in Kazakhstan, and they may allow PhD candidates obtain PhD degree without dissertation, just based on uh, 3 publications with quartile 1 journals. So I understand that it's worth submitting articles in Q1 journals, whether open access or subscription based, and consider quality of these journals as well. But note that quartiles and cannot be proxies of journal quality. There are many Q3, Q4 journals across all academic disciplines, adhering to all ethical standards, citation, ethics, without coercive citations. Some Q1 journals use coercive practices to boost their impact factors, to boost their site scores. These type of practices are easily traceable, so I'll present some of these examples later today. Other questions?
Now we come to the next item of our agenda. Dr. Arman is going to discuss some items of altmetric and bibliometric analysis.
Okay, good. So before altmetric analysis, you should know how to process bibliographic information. It's your main point, main professional issue. You should know which databases cover information of your interest. Web of Science platform or Scopus database. Web of Science core collection covers a number of databases. So not all of these databases contain evidence-based journals, particularly emerging sources citation index. Currently indexes 7,800 journals meeting certain standards, but not sufficient to be covered by Science Citation Index Expanded or Social Sciences Citation Index. So these 2 databases are the most reputable databases used for journal impact factor calculation, whereas Arts and Humanities Citation Index and Emerging Sources Citation Index are not used for journal impact factor calculation. Scopus database is used for professional searches used for site score calculation, alternative to journal impact factor. Web of Science, Scopus, and Google Scholar differ in coverage of professional information. Google Scholar covers the largest number of items. However, Google Scholar is just search engine. My recommendation is to use Scopus or Web of Science for general or multidisciplinary searches. Searches in Scopus are useful for medics because it covers 100% of Medline index journals and most journals covered by Embase. Embase, Excerpta Medica. Do not forget, do not discard this important database for pharmacists, pharmacologists, toxicologists, and specialists in chemistry. So, Scopus is one of the largest bibliographic databases covering journals in more than 40 languages. It is linked to Science Direct library, digital library. And pay attention to these connections of Scopus. So all Elsevier published articles are digitized and archived by Science Direct. Science Direct is digital repository of Elsevier, digital library. And if you search through Scopus, those articles that you retrieve and those published by Elsevier can be downloaded, full texts can be downloaded from Science Direct. Why it's important? Because you cannot use Sci-Hub or other pirate or other illegal hubs of open access to professional information. Sci-Hub will go down, will be closed soon, and the best option for most scholars to secure access to Scopus and Science Direct, and these two platforms provide access to most scholarly items. Scopus is rapidly developing bibliographic database. Why? Because it acquired Mendeley Reference Manager. Mendeley is also viewed as social scholarly networking platform. Social media also can be, it can be viewed as a social media channel as well. But Scopus integrated with Plum Analytics to display social media metrics coming from Plumex. Free platform of Scimago Journal Rank displays free metrics of Scopus-based free metrics on their platform, Scimago, Journal, and Country Rank. The same cannot be discussed about other multidisciplinary databases. So this is why for most of our participants, Scopus is the most informative, the most reliable and handy bibliographic database. If you do not have access to Scopus, you may acquire access by becoming reviewer of Elsevier published journals or via your universities. I didn't mention about Embase because though it's another product of Elsevier, it's separate from Scopus. It's a separate but most important bibliographic database for medics. You now know that number of journals in Medline is around 5,300. In Medline, 8,100. You see the difference? 2,900 journals are simultaneously covered by Medline and M-base. So there is certain overlap. But of course, M-base is more oriented towards pharmacology, pharmacy, toxicology, and it's more useful as a search platform for these specialists. They have their own indexing criteria, and the most important criterion is relevance to their field of interest. Scopus journal indexing criteria are tougher, much tougher, and they pay attention to a number of points, particularly to citedness of your articles, citedness of your editorial board members. Let's say Hirsch indexes of your editorial board members. It's not absolute criterion, but having highly cited researchers on editorial board improves chances of getting covered by Scopus. Tips for Scopus searches: bibliometric, bibliographic searches. Identify keywords from a mesh platform. You may also use logical words. You should know your field of interest to use proper keywords. You should estimate number of articles. You should focus to highly cited top 50 to 100 articles. If you find only 5, 10, it means that this field not so well advanced or emerging field. You may calculate even H index of your topic. You may visualize publication activity. You should rank top journals covering your field of interest, top 5, 10, 20. Rank top 10 authors, top 10 affiliations, top 10 countries. Identify relevant, highly prevalent subject areas, medicine, sociology, computer science, etc., and analyze keywords manually and then using software. Manually, you may calculate percentages of most important or widely used keywords. But of course, VOS-Viewer allows you to export and analyze in detail keywords and other information, other different types of information. So here is an example of bibliometric search strategy for bibliometric articles. Rheumatoid arthritis, you see, this field is popular. A large number of indexed articles. We should rank these articles based on their citations. Focus on highly cited articles. Top cited article is a classification article. We may analyze it using altmetric as well, altmetric.com. We may calculate H index of rheumatoid arthritis in Scopus. You see how I calculate it manually? It's easy. 567 articles, each of which is cited at least 567 times in Scopus. It's an impressive H index value. So we may also pay attention when publication activity on rheumatoid arthritis started centuries ago and peaked last year, probably because rheumatic patients suffered from contracted COVID-19 and concerns of rheumatologists were high. We may also pay attention to journals covering this topic. Top scientists like Paul Emery, like Joseph Smolen, like Paul Peter Tuck, Maxime Dougados, Gerd Burmeister, Bernard Combe, top authors from Western Europe, those who publish a lot. Let's say Paul Emery from Britain published more than 700 articles on rheumatoid arthritis indexed by Scopus. Harvard Medical School is leading medical school publishing on rheumatoid arthritis. There are also other 10, or you may also go deeper and analyze top 20 universities. Pay attention to countries. Of course, Western countries are active in the field of rheumatoid arthritis. Documents type, not so important, but most articles are original research papers and reviews tagged as articles by Scopus, documents by subject, medicine, immunology, biochemistry, and sometimes it is also necessary to pay attention to who are funders. Pfizer or other institutions, pharmacy, farm industry, other organizations. Uh, we should also pay attention whether local countries, regions are well represented in this field. Unfortunately, numbers from Ukraine not so impressive because of different reasons. Because there are no indexed rheumatology journal published from Ukraine and indexed by Scopus. But you see that Canadian journal, Annals, Arthritis and Rheumatology, and other journals are top journals. And there are also some other journals listed among top 10 journals publishing in the field of rheumatoid arthritis. So now the most important part of our bibliometric analysis, keywords, indexed keywords analysis related to rheumatoid arthritis. We may analyze percentages of these top keywords like human, like female. We know that rheumatoid arthritis is common in females, like C-reactive protein, closely related to rheumatoid arthritis, to disease activity, or other keywords. So these keywords not easy to process one by one. This is why we should use option offered by Scopus, export to Excel file. This information we may export and analyze, let's say, keywords. So you may use it, but you may also activate all other buttons and analyze everything. Of course, if you use it, if you are confident with it. But I would prefer to narrow my field of interest. So instead of analyzing rheumatoid arthritis, it's not so important. More important to analyze rheumatoid arthritis in relation to COVID-19. And one of our fellows, Bohdana Doskaluk, publishes an article on this subject. She also submitted an abstract to EULAR Congress about these subjects. So having 500 articles on this topic easier to process. So it means that we may also understand software outputs, software analysis of 500 items, easy. Whereas with rheumatoid arthritis, not so easy to understand, not so easy. You may simply focus on top 10, top 20. Whereas here, you may analyze deeper. So again, you pay attention to journals covering these two keywords, this field of interest, rheumatoid arthritis and COVID-19, to authors frequently publishing in this field, countries, universities, top cited article in this field, why it's top cited, how it is covered by social media. So, analysis of keywords in relation to rheumatoid arthritis and COVID-19. Again, we should pay attention to corticosteroid, to tofacitinib, to drugs like hydroxychloroquine used at the beginning of pandemic. This is why we see that these keywords are frequently mentioned in articles tagged with rheumatoid arthritis and COVID-19 in their titles, abstracts, and indexed keywords. And from VOS viewer, we may visualize our keywords, interconnectedness of our keywords, frequently used here, like virus pneumonia, like human, like drugs, certain drugs related to COVID-19, prednisone, and other JAK inhibitors, and also rarely used, like colchicine, and other rarely used but still important keywords. Now, about tools for scientometrics. So today, all our participants informed about VOS viewer for processing big bibliometric data. It's useful, handy, free tool, but you should mention in your articles, if you use this tool, you should acknowledge VOS viewer platform. There were some articles, you see impressive graphics. So for our articles with numbers, we need impressive figures. So this type of articles are currently published. And one of my favorite authors, experts in hypothesis, also published in dental hypothesis article based on those viewer analysis. So you see that the same VOS viewer can be used with circles, with density, or different types of visualization techniques to visualize hotspots in your field of interest, red spots, most active publications, most common keywords in your field of interest. Now, Scopus can be used also for analysis of certain journals. So it's one of the most important part for journal editors, or for all those who are interested how site scores are calculated. Site scores are 4-year metrics. Soon all these site scores will be published. I rely on April data for top rheumatology journals and analyze citations to these journals from other journals. You see, numbers are impressive, and most articles citing annals are not top rheumatology journals like Oxford Journal, BMC Journal, Frontiers Journal, and only Annals also frequently cites his own journal. But you see difference? Only 300, around 300 times for 4-year period. Out of 24,000 citations, only 300 are from annals. So if you calculate percentage, we'll see that it's minimal percentage, low percentage. And we also pay attention who cites this journal. Important information. Of course, past president of EULAR, leading French rheumatologist Maxime Dugados, leading Japanese, one of the rheumatologists from former Soviet Union, Russian Federation, leading journal, British scientist, Paul Emery. One of all these top authors are leading rheumatologists who frequently publish in leading rheumatology journals. And most of them are from leading or developing countries. And when we analyze all documents from this journal in Annals, more than 16,000 articles from this journal, we see some of these are abundantly cited, like radiological examination of joints in osteoarthrosis, old name of osteoarthritis, old article. This is why citations are impressive, numerous citations, but automatic attention score is low. So all those who are going to write bibliometric and automatic articles should pay attention to time period. Recent articles are abundantly commented on social media, but their citations are low. When we go deeper into history, we see highly cited articles, but their social media attention is low. Now, uh, we may also analyze all these items, more than 16,000 items, based on who published. The leading scientist is past president of EULAR, Rheumatology Association of Europe, Paul Emery. All other past presidents, all other leading rheumatologists published in this journal. Paul Emery published 300 articles. It's a huge number. And we see that number of articles is increasing annually. Last year, Annals published around 700 articles in 1 year. So it's big journal. All journals publishing more than 150 articles annually considered as big or prolific journals. And we may also pay attention to other countries actively publishing in this journal: United States, Germany, leading European, and Japan also from Asia Pacific. Now, about least cited journal in terms of or newcomer, journal from former Soviet Union or Russian Federation. It's called, its former name was Voprosy Revmatisma, old journal, established by one of leaders in the field of rheumatism, but it's now published as a society journal, and we should also pay attention to site score calculation. Site score is 1.2, latest. It's twice higher compared to previous year site score, but we should pay close attention to auto citations. Out of 483 citations, most are from the same journal. You see this? If you calculate percentage, you will see that it's huge. It's not right. So for small journal publishing around 149 journals, articles, these number of citations, auto citations, is huge. And we may also analyze other details. Again, export from Scopus, pay attention to this time to authors who publishes in this journal. And again, we use VOS Viewer, and we see that this author, one author, published more than 100 articles in the same journal. So it's chief editor, current chief editor, and it's unacceptable. If journal chief editor abundantly publishes in his or her journal his own articles or articles of his team, his or her team, it's considered as violation of publication ethics. So be very careful. It's also a message to all Eastern European journal editors, particularly to chief editors. Avoid publishing in journals controlled by you, by your team members. We may also now switching to social media and ethics. So ethics is important issue for social media or post-publication promotion, and it's all about human behavior. Social media is all about human behavior. It's about human informed consent. It's about methodology. So I analyzed and visualized the most important keywords. So human is one of the most important keywords. So we, all our today's participants, should use a basket of metrics, should be familiar with citation metrics and alt metrics, and should be more friendly with a number of metrics for their research, for their scholarly promotion. They should know about Twitter advantages and limitations. I am grateful to Polish Journal of Rheumatology that published this important article about different platforms, social media platforms. Here, I also mentioned ResearchGate as a social media channel platform. However, I consider social media primarily as a repository for researchers. All other platforms, Twitter, Facebook, not so suitable for repositing article records. They simply help to navigate from social media account to journal account. Now, specifically about altmetric analysis, you should report specific date of analysis because it's cross-sectional analysis within short period of time, 1 day, few days, 1-2 days, because if you prolong analysis, your data can be unreliable. Fluctuation is high in the field of social media. You should select your articles of interests. It's better to have 100, 200, 300, and then calculate, find out. You may also focus on 50 top cited articles, then using altmetric it tool, uh, retrieve altmetric attention scores and analyze this way as well. It's also possible. Choose aggregator, altmetric, Plum Analytics, Our Research. I always use altmetric it, but when I analyze articles in Scopus, I pay attention to PlumX, Plumprints. Uh, these aggregators provide a slightly different information. So you should specify. Compare altmetric attention scores and other metrics, particularly tweets, Mendeley bookmarkings, blog posts, news outlets, mentions with citations, whether there is correlation, bivariate correlation or not. And if possible, also correct for confounding factors, if you know time, period, a number of other confounding factors. There are a number of tools for researchers. I mentioned about Altmetric it. You may download it from Altmetric Bookmarklet. Now, when we analyzed today rheumatoid arthritis and COVID-19, we paid attention to top cited article. We may also analyze the same article on on altmetric.com platform and analyze whether Scopus citations correlate with altmetric attention score, Mendeley bookmarkings, tweets. Of course, if we have just one article, we cannot calculate correlation, but if we have 30, 100 articles, top cited articles, we may find out whether there is any association between citations and alternative metrics, altmetrics. So I usually refer to Mendeley bookmarkings and tweets because I need numbers for analysis. And if our researchers use only altmetric attention score, it's also incorrect. So they should combine AAS with other metrics. So AAS is based on aggregation of social media information from these mentioned by platform. They do not use citations. They do not use Mendeley for calculation of AAS, altmetric attention score. So this is why I ask you, I encourage you to combine Mendeley bookmarkings with tweets, and sometimes you may also use dimension citations. So pay also attention which countries actively comment on social media. It's also important. Let's say Central Asian countries, not so active, unfortunately, because they do not use Twitter as frequently, as actively as their American counterparts. You see that most users, most of those who tweeted, who commented on social media are those or online users from US. So main message of this presentation is to rely on social media actively used by users, rely on bibliographic databases with largest coverage of professional information, for example, Scopus, and try to generate points with clinical implications, not all conclusions based on our bibliometric and altmetric analysis have clinical implications because there are a number of confounding factors, a number of subjective activities or biased activities on social media. Over to you.
Dear Arman, it was a really excellent presentation, and
Thank you very much.
thank you for your brilliant advice on how to use WOS viewer for information visualization. I'm sure that all our participants will experiment with this software and use this for own research purpose and publish really great articles.
With great journals in Eastern Europe and elsewhere.
Yes.
And
Yes,
I
of course.
expect from all our today's participants, today we have more than 20 participants, it's a good number. Activity of our participants is impressive. And I know that today we have only those participants who need this information for writing their articles, writing their dissertations, for research management, and also for journal editing. Without knowledge of these basics of research methodology and post-publication promotion, impossible to index journals with reliable bibliographic databases. I am open to your questions.
Yes, we encourage our participants to ask questions and make comments. Probably our colleagues from Poland would like to say something. Are they going to use WOS? Are you going to use WOS viewer, Professor Jerzy Konstantinovich?
Jurek, before you start commenting, I should say you that WOS viewer is useful, but you need an IT specialist to download this program and experiment with Scopus exporting data, because you need some support from IT specialists. And I'm sure your PhD candidates, your research fellows, those who are going to write review articles for good journals, you know names of these journals. I'm not going to publicize these journals. So they also would benefit from using WOS viewer. Over to you, Jörg.
That's a good idea. Thank you. First of all, thank you for the presentation, for the two presentations. Excellent and very relevant. And probably it's a secret knowledge. Not all scientists and contributors are aware of the value and the importance of such an approach to the metrics. We all know the visibility may be enhanced by just a short comment apropos your recent statements and conclusions. The visibility and the basket of metrics, of course, you emphasized a very important approach, just a mental approach to how to read the metrics, how to interpret metrics. There is sometimes, however, a difference or discrepancy between citation numbers and visibility. Very small citation, despite a high visibility and altmetrics and accessibility to a given article. So sometimes, in contrast, the visibility could be artificially enhanced. Just what you said about behaviors and social media. Social media reflects the behaviors, or it's kind of a biased approach, of course, and the hard data is just citation. And my question was actually, I had a question, a completely different question. Is there a case in the literature or in the track records, I mean, Medline indexed journals, that self-citations or auto-citations could kill the journal ranking or journal position in the market? Do we know? And for example, I'm not sure whether I am allowed to specify the specific names of the journals, but there are cases of highly ranked journals in which self-citations have decreased. So many intelligent readers will find out it's something wrong or ethically incorrect in publications made by the editors only, abundantly, just a very selected and small number of authors. So we need to be very careful. The large horizon and large spectrum of authors is very welcome, I think, because it's a variety of ideas. So self-citations, and what's your experience? Of course, you've got a great experience, and probably
Professor Konstantinovich from Bialystok University, thank you very much. It's one of the most important ethical issue in the field of citations. We know about so-called elitist science for elite, or journals for elite professionals. There are some top-ranked journals, but we all know that there is certain percentage of journal auto-citations. However, if these auto-citation comes from direct recommendations of chief editors or publishers to cite this specific journal, it's unethical. These type of journals are suspended by Web of Science and Scopus, primarily by Web of Science. And I am aware of numerous journals, not in the field of rheumatology, but in other fields, in general medicine particularly, that were suspended because of stacking citations to their own journal, or friendly citations. Two journals decided to overly cite each other. And it was easily traceable by VOS viewer, by other techniques. It's easy to visualize this type of citation patterns, and sanction that journal. There were some journals I'm not going to discuss. I warned some of my Eastern European colleagues, journal editors, particularly from Eastern European countries, to avoid self-citations to their journals. And I also asked chief editors of their journals in Eastern Europe to avoid publishing in their own journals. And we know that if chief editor abundantly published editorials, they abundantly cite their own journals, and it skews citation metrics, journal impact factor calculation. And we should move away from journal impact factor. We should use site score, other metrics in combination, and we should also pay attention whether there is trend towards increasing citations from all over the world, not just from elite scientists, not just from one group of scientists, but diversity. If there is diversity, so there is no problem. Yeah.
Excellent. Professor Zimba, Olena, may I just another question?
Yes, of course.
So, Professor Gasparian, Armen, what's your view on the role of editors or editorial team members in different journals? Same names are sometimes involved in different journals of this in the same field. for example, the bone journals, say Journal of Bone Mineral Research, Osteoporosis International, and the sister journal, which is Archives of Osteoporosis, and then Bone, etc., and further on, they might include elite group of scientists who contribute. However, they sometimes don't understand their role because this might make some conflicts. For example, they might recommend or make some obstacles. I need to be very careful. However, obstacles in publishing in other journals. So it's an issue, another issue of the of a biased processing. So some recognized journals, some international with a great international reputation, might also practice, might also implement some unusual practices. I have a problem with some scientists leading key opinion leaders in the, for example, osteoporosis area or rheumatology area, whose role is different in different journals. You know, deputy editors and the team member, editorial board member in another one. And they perfectly know there is a problem with the acceptance or with the competition, with the profile, thematic selection, and the scope. Do you have it's difficult to understand. We obviously understand inviting somebody to the editorial board is a responsibility. Then your expectation need to be transformed to the reader's expectations. So sometimes it's a very hermetic, even in those highly recognized, renowned Springer or Elsevier journals. So the editorial board members in different journals of the same field, sharing the same thematic areas.
Professor Konstantinovich, I got your point, excellent point. So we should distinguish whether academic discipline is emerging, small academic discipline with limited number of professionals, with sufficient number of skills. Let's say in the field of osteoporosis, we have 100 specialists. And out of these 100, only 10 specialists are highly skilled. So all these 10 members will appear in all journals in this field. But if it's cardiology or biochemistry or other disciplines where number of experts exceeds thousands, it's easy to form ethically editorial boards to balance between professional approach and diversity approach. But if we deal with small group of scientists in closed communities like in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, the same story, in some small academic disciplines, we'll see the same problem of having the same members across all all professional journals. So there should be a balance. And of course,
Thank you. I really value the manner you explained these. That's the point exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Olena, other questions?
Dear colleagues, we are waiting for your questions. Thank you, Jurek, for your excellent question and comments on Arman's presentation.
Today, Olena, we have also Pavel Abramovich from the same university, Bialystok University, and also Zofia Gulia from Krakow University. Yeah. All of them are rheumatologists who actively publish with their local journal, local rheumatology, Rheumatologia Polska or Rheumatology Journal, and also with other journals. So hopefully your fellows, PhD candidates, will produce more articles based on our recommendations and visualize their field of interest in their reviews, let's say.
I see that we have one question from Neslihan. Thank you, Neslihan, for your questions, for all your questions. Thank you for your informative presentation. Which social media platforms do you prefer other than Twitter? Which one is more effective, ResearchGate or Twitter?
Okay, another good question from a clinician. So almost all our participants are clinicians. We have Dr. Chansu from Eskişehir, Ahmet Akyol from Kocaeli, and also Fatih Burhan Kocigit, so from Turkey. And all of them are clinicians. So is there any difference between Twitter and ResearchGate? Of course. Twitter is popular social media channel abundantly used by Anglophone researchers, Anglophone public representatives, whereas ResearchGate is for all specialists. Millions use Twitter, whereas hundreds of thousands use ResearchGate. There is difference, quantitative difference. And Twitter contributes to altmetric attention score. The more you tweet, your article altmetric attention score, the higher score of your article. Whereas ResearchGate activities do not contribute towards altmetric attention score. So ResearchGate serves different purpose, sharing information about archived PDFs of articles, about social networking of researchers without involvement of public representatives, whereas Twitter channel frequently used by public representatives, patients. So you see difference. This is why you should be very careful with posts of your articles or journal articles on Twitter, because these type of information is frequently exposed to patients, whereas on ResearchGate, most users, active or inactive, are researchers, scholars with certain ethical standards.
Twitter is not so popular platform in Turkey in comparison with Instagram, for example. So
Yeah.
you know.
But Turkish researchers should know how to calculate, how to process information, tweets for their altmetric analysis. They should go to altmetric.com, particularly Fatih Burhan Kocihit and Ahmet Akyol attending our presentation, our webinar today, Sinan Kardeş, also from Turkey. So they should know how to deal with numbers, tweets, Mendeley, even if they do not use these channels. It's necessary to understand the importance or implications of transforming these counts into altmetric research articles. And yes, researchers in Turkey frequently use Instagram. However, we mentioned before that Instagram do not contribute to altmetric attention score because most Instagram has its own audience, ladies, women, those who wish to show off their beauties, their outfit. Instagram initially it was for these type of activities. The same is now used to visualize patients or PMR movements, rehabilitation practices on Instagram. On Twitter, you have limitations of displaying this type of information. So the more you use, the more familiar you become with these social media channels.
Arman, does it mean that every scholar should have a few social media accounts, such as ResearchGate, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn? How about time management?
You are right. This is why some researchers may use only Twitter for their research activities, for spreading information about surveys, for promoting their own articles. In Turkey, they may use Instagram for conference streamlining, the same in Iran, but journal editors, social media editors may use specific type of channels. Let's say in Turkey, Instagram, in Kazakhstan, also probably Instagram, in Poland, Twitter, in Ukraine, Twitter. Why? Because we encourage all Ukrainian researchers, medics, to publish in English and to use Anglophone social media channels for promotion of their articles and for research cooperation. Yes, you are right that social media activities are time consuming, but we live in the era of pandemic, and social media channels are essence of our research, academic activities, and even clinical activities, consultations via social media channels.
You are right. 1 year ago, we even don't know what does Zoom mean.
Yes, we didn't know about
Yes.
Zoom, which is also social media channel, but extensively used for lecturing, for conferences, etc., etc. Not for promotion of separate articles, and there are no journals with Zoom channels, but there are journals with YouTube channels, journals with Twitter. Scopus also likes LinkedIn, and they encourage journal editors, chief editors to apply to Scopus, having information about their activities on LinkedIn.
Dear Arman, last question. What is your opinion about video abstracts, video articles? Do you have such experience to create video abstract or video article, or are you planning to do this?
Okay, again, good question. Video articles can be counted as individual scholarly items. It's difficult to create video articles because you need team to capture video clips, then to edit video clips, to concentrate on motion, on joint activities, something visually something that we need to present in video clips. But using Zoom videos, then editing video Zooms, combining with short video clips captured by video recorders, possible. So we should have aim of our research first, then capture video clips and target specific journals. Almost all open access journals are capable of publishing video articles as video items, as individual articles and supplementary video clips. I'm positive towards video articles, and this type of articles increase visibility, attractiveness of journals, journal views, view counts. So we should pay attention to downloads, views, citations, or social media activities, and also expert opinion. I personally never rely on any single metric to evaluate journal, individual researcher, individual research department, etc.
Thank you, Arman. Let's move on the next item of our agenda.
So, Olena, our
Yes.
last presentations were about social media and proper use of social media. So, our next presentation will
About
be
ethics.
about ethics. Again,
Yes.
important. Listen carefully and try to capture main point. Journal editors and researchers.
Well, I'm going to share with you my screen because our next presentation was pre-recorded a few days ago. Our colleagues from Iran. One moment.
Dear colleagues, friends, today our special guests are representatives from Iran. Professor Mohammad Abdullahi, one of the leading scientists in the field of toxicology, pharmacy, pharmacology, and one of the eminent journal editors who currently edits Daru Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, journal published by Tehran University of Medical Sciences and published, co-published by Springer Nature publisher. So Professor Mohammad Abdullahi is one of the highly cited researchers with more than 1,000 indexed publications. And he also is renowned for his work in the field of information retrieval, information management. He was also director of Central Library of Tehran University of Medical Sciences. You probably know that Tehran University of Medical Sciences is one of the top Eastern Mediterranean Eastern Mediterranean universities with a high rank of professors and quite active medical students. So today we also have with us social media editor of Daru Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Dr.
Taraneh
Musavi, yeah, and she is an expert in social media platforms. She's going to present a talk about social media, and we'll discuss afterwards some of the relevant issues related to journal promotion and ethics. So, Professor Abdullahi, if you wish, you can share some thoughts, comments before Taraneh's presentation. Over to you.
Greeting of the time, and thank you so much, Dr. Gasparian and Dr. Professor Zimba, for having us for the presentation about social media and ethics concerns. That is my pleasure to talk about social media that is new to us, and we are trying to use it in our journal that is published by Springer Nature, you know. So I think it is new to many editors and publishers, social media, and it has some technical concerns. It has advantages, it has disadvantages. There are many aspects regarding social media. So that's why I have divided our talk into two sections. The first session will be made by Taraneh, who will describe the social media and kinds of social media that are used by journals, by publishers, or other institutions, academics, and she will talk about technical aspects, and then at the end I will try to collate everything and talk about ethical aspects of the social media and what is the future perspective of social media and journals and editing and something like that. I will be available to any question at the end of the talk. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. So now stage is yours, Dr. Taraneh. You can share your screen.
Do you have my screen now?
Yeah, we can see
Yes.
your screen.
Okay, all right. Greeting of the time. Hello, and hope all is well and you have been staying safe during these days. It's Tarna Musavi, formerly a scholar at Tehran University of Medical Sciences, as well as social media editor of Dari Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Today, together with Professor Mohammad Abdullahi, I have the honor to talk about social media influences on increasing journals metrics. As you better know than me.
Share full screen.
Okay.
Go to your slideshow. Yeah.
Now you have my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
You have what? Yes, now we can see.
Okay, I start from the beginning.
Full view, yes.
First, go to slideshow.
Yes, slideshow.
Yeah, slideshow.
Oh, okay. You mean the PowerPoint?
Yeah, PowerPoint presentation, slideshow.
This one, you mean?
Oh, yes, great.
Yes?
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start from the beginning.
So you can get started.
Okay. Greeting of the time. Hello and hope all is well and you have been staying safe during these days. It's Tarna Musabi, formerly a scholar at Tehran University of Medical Sciences, as well as social media editor of Dari Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Today, together with Professor Mohammad Abdullahi, I have the honor to briefly discuss about social media influences on increasing journals metrics. As you better know than me, today's era is the age of communication, networking, and digitalization. Publication is not an exception, so it's important to improve our journal and integrate it with social media platforms. As number of article citations is directly associated with journals' impact factor in journals ranking, it's high importance to increase journal metrics. Accordingly, my today's presentation is divided into two main parts. In the first part, we're going to understand quantitative and qualitative metrics. And after that, we're going to become familiar with social media platforms, their pros, cons, and differences. Metrics can be divided into two parts, qualitative and quantitative metrics. Quantitative metrics are complementary to one another and often needs qualitative metrics, something like expert evaluations. I'm sure that you better know than me. These metrics can be divided into four main parts. The first one is views and downloads. The second one is citations. The third one is F1000 prime. And the last is altmetrics. Basically, the number of HTML views and PDF and XML downloads are regarded as quantitative metrics. I think that most of today's online journals are equipped with such metrics. These metrics can enable publishers to find out their audience preferences, which is specifically important for non-indexed startup journals because they can alternate their interaction with audience over the time. These metrics can also record the geographical and temporal interactions of an audience with the article, their opinion about an article, and can give us real-time records. But for index journals, views and downloads can be useful only for short duration, for example, for just months or weeks. The second one is citations. Three main factors can determine citation counts. The first one is digitalization, which is the main focus of our today's presentation. The second one is indexing, and the last is language. I mean, the quality of the language quality of an article. For example, if you write a fluent English article, it may get more citation than not good language article. Regarding an improvement in the number of citations, previous studies showed that reference lists contain high share of publications recorded in Web of Science may get more citation after publication. But you know, there are some issues here. The first one is about journals instructions. Some journals have strict instructions. For example, they oblige their authors to just limit the number of references or just limit the references to which cited in PubMed. The second one is about the reviewer's opinion. In some contexts that are very rare, reviewers may ask the authors to omit or replace non-English references. And the third one, let's say the most important one, is restriction in access to bibliographic and databases and search engines. This is an important issue, especially in countries under strict sanctions. By the way, if you want to rely on citations, you should consider two important points. First, field normalization, and second, apply percentiles method. By applying percentiles method, you can see the impact of your article in its field. And by field normalization, again, you can get the real citation of your article. Another kind of citation is RCR, or relative citation ratio. It is a metric that is field and time adjusted and benchmarked to NIH-funded article. For example, RCR above 1 means that the article has better performance than 15% of NIH-funded articles. It's good because it ignores journal impact indicators, but it has own limitations. For example, it ignores citations outside the PubMed. The third one is F1000 prime. Despite the number of downloads and citations, F1000 prime is a qualitative metric. It's a subscription-based expert evaluation system wherein your article is reviewed by faculty members from different parts of the world. They evaluate your article and rank it as, for example, exceptional, which gets 3 stars, very good with 2 stars, and good with 1 star. By going to this website, you can first register in the register part. And then after registration, you can nominate your article. The article could be either yours or others. And then the article will be evaluated by some expert reviewers. But it has some limitations. For example, it has closed circle of peer evaluators, and it just focuses on high quality and well-cited biomedical items. And the last one is alternative article metrics, or altmetrics. I think you're more familiar with altmetrics. Altmetrics is provided by 2 platforms, altmetric.com and Plum Analytics. Their report may vary, but it appears as altmetric attention scores, or AAS. In this page, you can see the altmetrics provided by altmetrics.com. It has a donut badges. You see it's like a donut, a colorful donut, and each color represents a part of social media interactions. For example, blue is responsible for a number of tweets, yellow for a number of blogs, and red news outlets, and so on. About the Plumix reports, the icon is somehow different. For example, the green represents usage, yellow mentions, orange citations, and so on. In this slide, I provide you with a real case to better understand the aforementioned items. It's my article on scientific misconduct published in the Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences. I think it was one of the successful articles in social media. Twitter helps it to even reach COPE, or Committee on Publication Ethics, which it's one of the very good committees on publication around the world. COPE tweeted this article and invites the audience to read it and use it in their further research. As well, Retraction Watch in the part of Weekend Reads invite its audience to read it and benefits from its points. For example, here you can see that donut badge. in blue represents number of tweets, and yellow number of blog citations. By the way, altmetrics have some limitations. The first one is like traditional citations, they can be manipulated by artificially views and downloads. And there are some interregional differences among using altmetrics and social media platforms. As I said, the second part of today's presentation will be on social media platforms. Here you can see a very comprehensive table containing advantages and disadvantages of most commonly used platforms. Pre-pandemic analysis showed that Twitter and Facebook are two most commonly used platforms for disseminating articles and in the field of publication. Facebook, for example, because of its video chats, it's very useful. For Twitter, you can easily craft tweets or host Twitter journal clubs or Twitter chats. But if you work with Twitter, I'm sure that you feel this limitation. You can only use limited number of characters, about 300. It's not very user friendly. About Instagram, although it's a good platform for sharing photos, stories, and something like this, it's not that much professional, and it has no weight for altmetric calculation. About YouTube, we should be careful about protecting patient privacy when posting videos on YouTube. LinkedIn has become attractive platform in some countries, especially in those where Twitter and Facebook are filtered due to some issues. For example, in my country, nowadays LinkedIn is more attractive among professors and students than Twitter or Facebook. And about the Mendeley and ResearchGate, these two platforms, again, are nowadays very attractive and gathering much of attention. But again, there are some limitations in social media. The first one is differences in attitudes toward using social media, the cultural differences. The second one is about the actually following ethical points when using social media, which Professor Abdullahi will be discussed more. And the third one is about the lack of proper infrastructures in some regions due to, for example, lack of internet speed or filtering issues and so on. Now I want to give you some general points to consider when using social media platforms. Based on your condition, types of article, your journal, you can select one or more of the social media platforms that I talked about. But always keep in mind to be active when you want to use social media. Activity is very important, especially in Twitter. Retweeting posts or crafting tweets, it's very important. It's important to share the same content on different time to get more attention from all over the world. It's also important to divide and separate your business account, journal account with your individual account, and have a separate account for your business. It's also important to have one or more, specifically more social media platforms, more than one, and with different target of people. For example, one for colleagues, one for patients, another for friends. And it should be noted that writing a biographic note about yourself, your position, your affiliation, containing a Scopius author ID or author ID is another important issue. Another important issue to consider is using hashtags. More hashtags you use in LinkedIn, in Twitter, specifically related hashtags, help you to better disseminate your article and publication. And at the end, I want to talk a bit about social media editor or SME. As I said before, social media platforms are very important nowadays. And the new role of social media editor has recently introduced to journal editorial boards. Social media editor can be selected from people outside the journal, from trusted people outside the journal, with enough interests and talents in producing contents, and can be even one of the editors who are, for example, expert in the field of technology. The responsibilities of social media editor can vary across different journals, but they usually craft tweets, posts, blog posts, infographics, podcasts, host Twitter chats, Twitter journal clubs, and so on. However, there are some barriers, including lack of funding, time, and administrative support. And because of that, nowadays we see very limited number of journals that have SME. But these barriers should be immediately addressed as social media platforms, and integrating these platforms with journals is an important issue in today's era of publication. My presentation ends here. Thanks for your attention. In the next part, Professor Abdullahi will talk about ethics in using social media.
So Professor Abdullahi, stage is yours. Please join us.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. Okay. Taran, may I ask you to share your screen and continue the slides that
Of course.
and
Yes.
go to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay. You know, you are now in the 21, number 21, yes?
26 ethics, yes.
Ethics, okay. So about the ethics, you know, we are at the moment in the lack of a global, you know, direction, the global rule about the guidelines, instructions, general agreement of the social media around the world. You know, some social media has their own agreements that if somebody violates that, so they are going to interrupt their subscription. But you know, organization or associations of ethics that cover ethical concerns of publications, I mean ethical concerns of journals and publishers, something like International Committee of Medical Journal Editors and Committee on Publication Ethics. They do not deal with social media at the moment, you know, because they only accept subscription from the side of journals or publishers, not social media. So, but if something happens in the against the code of the conduct of publication ethics, COPE, for example, can give consultation of what kind of misconduct has happened and what should be done, or advise the journal or the publisher. So I mean that in future we will need ethics association specific for social media. if you go to the next slide, you know, something are very important regarding social media. In social media, we have to protect, first of all, the copyright protected materials. We have to know that we cannot disseminate every kind of information, every kind of paper, every kind of material, document, or like that. And we cannot disseminate sensitive and, for example, images related to patients without consent, or we cannot rely on predatory conferences that are seen in the social media. And, you know, sometimes some of them are unethical and unprofessional, but somebody cannot distinguish between the predatory or non-predatory original conferences, and sometimes scientists are confused. So this is the problem of social media. In the field of social media, so the diversity of cultural traditions and predominant languages of scholarly writings, the attitudes toward public engagement and use of social media differ between countries. This is the first point. And the second point is that unethical posting of images, texts, and promotion leaflets of drugs should be avoided across social media, especially if the account belongs to a journal or a publisher. And the third point is that journals in some regions may not have access to proper infrastructures, but they should try their best to address existing issues. So I would like to say something about points that we have to consider. You know, in the position of editor of a journal, a scientific journal that is published by a famous publishing company, I have to say that when we want to leave a comment or message or something like that in any account that we have to make sure who are we going to talk to. For example, it is a message to the public or it is a private message. Always we have to or must be precise, very precise, unbiased. We have to be very polite. We have to be very specialized. We have to always consider copyright protection materials, confidentiality matters, and feel responsibility in responding any claim against us. So I think that's editing the social media is needs some some things in the field of ethics that must be learned. And the agreements that are accepted by the subscribers when they open an account in, for example, in Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. Sometimes they don't read the agreement content. So sometimes they leave messages that violate the confidentiality of other people, that violate the copyright protection items, and sometimes they are unbiased, and they are biased, and they are not precise, or they are impolite. So I think that in the future we will need something like COPE or organization like that for the social media, for the so the people must be aware that everything that is seen in the social media cannot be always correct. And this is different from a paper that is published by a journal. The paper is always peer reviewed, and after several revisions, it is published. But in the social media, you may put any message or circulate any message that you are not sure about its reliability, about correctness. So these are the points that we have to be very careful about social media. I think in the future we will need organization like COPE to deal with ethical aspects of the social media, especially the ones that journals and publishers try to use them. One side of the publishers and journals is the business side of their activity. So they want to get benefit of publication. This is their right. So they need to advertise. This is correct. So sometimes they need a paper to be read and studied by many people. So they need more citation. It is correct, request. This is not wrong. So they are interested to be in the LinkedIn or, for example, Twitter, and just present the articles that are important for them to the more people. When a paper is published, just some scientists may read it. So many of people in the world might not visit that paper. But in the Twitter, when you leave a message, a link to a paper that is newly published, you can see that how many people have read that. So what does it mean? It means that you have you have done something according to the goal of publication, because in scientific publication we want to disseminate information. We want to disseminate what we have discovered, what we think. So this is the job in the journals we are doing. So this is very important, especially about hypothesis articles, because when a hypothesis is published, the authors want others to give comment, to maybe do it, practice it in future, because sometimes the authors that have given the idea, the hypothesis, they don't have facilities to do that study by themselves. But other centers may have facilities, may have expertise, may have tools to complete the studies. So I mean that social media in such cases is very important and useful. And so if social media is used in the correct way, social media could be very useful and helpful to the work of journals, to the work of publishers. So the scientific informations can be spread rapidly. But the point is that if something is wrong and something mistakenly, for example, published in a journal, there is the chance of reconsideration or retraction that article from the archives of that journal or publishing company. But about the social media, sometimes that cannot be made easily because retraction rules in the social media. I'm not, of course, expert in that part, but I think it is different from journals. So there may be something like retraction of papers in the social media field, but if there is nothing like that, there should be, because uh, social media may do mistake, may have something wrong, and so they have to be careful to not distribute any wrong information, any confidential, any copyright protected, or any biased information. And these are the matters that we have to deal with. So that's the importance of this topic. And I would like to thank the organizers of this specific seminar, especially Dr. Kasperian and Dr. Zimba. And thank you, everybody, for participation and listening to our talks. Goodbye.
Professor Abdullahi, thank you very much. So you were a council member of Committee on Publication Ethics for a long time, and you know a lot about ethical regulations, ethical recommendations, and you contributed a lot to Committee on Publication Ethics. So we rely on recommendations of this leading editorial association, COP, Committee on Publication Ethics, and we follow all their statements. Particularly in 2017, they published core practices, 10-point-based statements. And one of these statements refers to post-publication promotion, not directly related to social media. However, it says that journal editors should have channels for post-publication promotion, and without specifically mentioning any social media platform. But we know that the most popular one is Twitter. For journal editors, it's important tool, and we should use Twitter for dissemination of ethical publications without sensitive information. So social media editors should help us to carefully select and disseminate on Twitter and other social media channels. You also mentioned about launching association or probably section on social media within friends of associations like COP, like regional, local associations. We have with us Olena Zimba, who is Secretary General of Ukrainian Council of Science Editors, and they also trying to enforce ethical standards of COP, Council of Science Editors, WAMIM, other editorial association locally in Ukraine, in Eastern Europe. So we are grateful to you, Mohammed, for your expertise, for your cooperation and exposure of your journals, particularly Daru Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, to Eastern European and other professionals who read and probably will try to target your journal. And we know that you have your journal runs a social media platform on Twitter, social media account, and your social media editor carefully selects published articles and promotes. Of course, there are concerns about drugs, medical technologies, any tweet or any biased social media comment can be perceived by Twitter users as biased. So I know that you have skilled editor, Dr. Olena Zimba, also skilled editor, and she also pays attention to filtering information, disseminating unbiased drug information, medical technologies. All these type of issues are important related to ethics of post-publication promotion. And we know that that also depends on skills and also cultural traditions. In Eastern Mediterranean region, there is different tradition compared to Eastern Europe or other parts of world. I know that in some countries, particularly in Turkey, in Middle Eastern countries, Instagram is important platform for social media promotion. However, Instagram is not part of altmetrics.com. So it's not used for score calculation, social media score calculation. So we may push altmetrics.com. We may ask them to include posts from Instagram into their calculation, but they have their own strategy, own algorithm of calculation. And of course, I personally, I myself suggested some important blogs, online platforms to altmetrics.com to cover and to use these platforms for calculating their scores. So altmetric attention score is quite influential metric, comparable or complementing citations. Tarane mentioned about various metrics. Of course, all these metrics have their own place, their own niche, and social media metrics are gaining momentum, and we hope that all popular social media platforms will be extensively used throughout the world, not just in Iran, not just in Ukraine, but also in other parts of the world, to have more comprehensive coverage of metrics and more metrics relevant to the whole world, of interest to all users all over the world. So Mohammed Abdullahi, you are also a quite active educator, dean of the Department of Pharmacy and Pharmacology and at Tehran University of Medical Sciences. And I'm sure your participation today will attract our administrators, our mentors in Lviv, in Ukraine, and they also will consider extending cooperation with you and your university, Tehran University of Medical Sciences. So thank you a lot. Olena, any questions, comments?
Thank you very much. You kindly shared with us your rich editors and authors experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions? No comments, Olena?
Your presentation was really excellent, and I believe that this presentation will be very useful for Ukrainian scholars.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arman. Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Tarane. Thank you,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So it was our introduction of Professor Mohammed Abdullahi, his journal and his views on social media ethics. I'm happy that we managed to involve Professor Mohammed Abdullahi in our webinar series. And you now know that you can also cooperate with some Iranian research fellows who are quite actively involved in journal editing and research. So, Olena, We've covered all our agenda points for today.
Yes.
Now we are open to some comments, questions, ethics.
Comment from Neslihan. Thank you for your valuable presentations. Thank you, Neslihan, for your active participation.
Yeah. So we encourage all of you to use our webinars points in when you write or when you draft your research articles, and choose good target journals with social media coverage, with editors actively promoting their best articles on social media channels like Twitter, Facebook, other Instagram. Today we've discussed a lot about the Instagram, and as a result, we'll also publish an article about Instagram to encourage our journals in the field of rheumatology and rehabilitation and other disciplines, image-oriented disciplines, to benefit from Instagram accounts. So we should thank all our today's participants from different parts of Ukraine, Eastern Europe, other parts of the world. I am personally grateful to first of all, to our organizers, Danila Halitsky, Lviv National Medical University, and representatives, Andrei Borisovich Zeminkovsky, Olena Zimba, visiting professor of this university, Vasil Lonchina, who is now based in Chicago, who also a lecturer of one bioethics course in Loyola University in Chicago. So I'm also grateful to Shevchenko Scientific Society, medical branch of that society. They have supported us a lot over the past few years, and grateful to Ukrainian Council of Science Editor, one of the organizers of this webinar series, quite active recently because they registered a few months ago. The president is Professor Stoika, acting member of National Academy of Sciences, and also a laureate of numerous scientific awards, prizes, local and international. So all our team is grateful to Bulgarian fellows, Svetoslav Georgiev, Sevdalina Lambova, to our Croatian fellows, Ines Doko from Zagreb, to our Turkish fellows from Adana, Kocaeli, Eskişehir, and other cities. They are really very friendly and very cooperative. I am grateful for their interest, for their support, and expect a lot in the coming months, year. Also grateful to our Ukrainian fellows from different parts of Ukraine, Vinnytsia, Kiev, Lviv. Today we've done a great job. We've introduced something new to our participants, and now I'm waiting for great articles for our journals and journals in Eastern Europe. Olena?
Thank you, Armen, for your regular contribution and your support. Thank you for your excellent presentations. I believe that our participants gained really valuable knowledge, and this knowledge will transform into great articles in ethical, high-quality journals. Don't forget to use WOS viewer for your
Yes,
research
exactly.
articles.
To visualize and make
Yes.
your articles impressive. So my big thank you to all Ukrainian, Polish, Bulgarian, Croatian, Turkish participants of today's webinar.
Who would like to say something? Pavel Abramovich? Professor Loncina.
Yes, can you?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So again, thank you again. I think, Olen, if I'm not mistaken, is this number 19 of our webinars series? 18 or 19?
Yes.
Something on it. So it's quite a track record, you know, within a year and a half to have so much.
Professor Lancina, congratulations on Embroidery Day. You
Yes.
look great.
Deng Vyshyvanki, yes. From across the sea, I welcome all our Ukrainians. Say Deng Vyshyvanki. I'm with you in solidarity. So yes, I mean, very, very interesting. I have a very practical question. Of course, probably the young people know this much better than I do, but as a user of social media, I find I'm very sporadic. I'm not on it all the time, and so I probably miss a lot of things. So if you know, if you take it now from the opposite angle, not as an editor, but as a recipient of news, of articles and of scientific information, you know, how can I follow certain things so that I don't miss it? Because, you know, if you're on Twitter, I mean, it populates so quickly. Every second there's something new, and you know, there's no way of really reviewing it. I mean, you can review the last 30 minutes or last few days, but oftentimes you'll just miss whatever, you know, it's in cyberspace. You'll never get back to it. So how can the recipient, how can the reader be targeted in such a way that this important information that you want to put out as an editor can be accepted, read, reviewed, you know, by readers?
So, Professor Lancina, good point. Of course, we cannot cover all news, breaking news, all activities on social media. However, we should follow some specific journals on social media. I personally follow some big journals, rheumatology journals, Nature, and even if I miss their latest tweets, I go to their account when I enter Twitter and then read all latest tweets, posts, and even discussions. And sometimes I also pay attention to the context of this discussion, whether they discuss something in a critical way, in a negative way, whether there were some articles with promotion, something unusual, and learn a lot from these type of activities, from criticism, from pointing fingers to mistakes of journals. Sometimes even big journals publish articles with errors, and Twitter account users spot these mistakes, start discussing, sometimes not in an ethical way. So, but this is why we need social media editors who should block activity of these type of unethical users and should direct flow of discussion to unethical, towards ethics. So, of course, we all as specialists should have certain points of interest in on Twitter, on Facebook. I know several closed groups on Facebook, and I am part of these groups. And we discussed latest articles, latest conferences, also share information about these conferences. So all specialists should know specific channels, specific accounts of their professional interest. And one of the final points is to avoid promotion of commercial events, uh, events organized by pharmaceutical industry, symposiums sponsored by big pharmaceutical industry. So probably you know that Rheumatology Association is going to run their annual conference, and I know that they are very ethical. They have their ethical social media editors who never share information about certain pharmaceutical certain drugs. Whereas in Eastern Europe, when inexperienced social media editors promote conference, they first post certain information about conference, and immediately after that post, they disseminate promotion post about drug or medical technology closely related to that post, previous post. So all account users should know about tips of social ethics of social media posting. And I hope that we will also have section on social media use, or social media section of Ukrainian Council of Science Editors. So I know that all our young or ongoing research fellows are interested in social media. They are quite active. They spend a lot of time, almost several hours daily, on Twitter and social media and Facebook. We are familiar with survey results of several professional associations, and younger generation ongoing research fellows actively use different social media channels on a daily basis for their research, for finding research cooperators, and also for discussing their topics of interest.
So also, in going back to the topic of auto-citation, which today we talk more about journals and the editorial staff that are complicit in the auto-citation in order to further the journal itself. But one should also send the message to authors to limit their own auto-citation, because I mean, I've reviewed many papers where the author just puts in all his papers that he ever wrote into a paper, you know, to make it look so much more scientific, and that of course is problematic. In addition to one of my pet peeves is when you cite a whole textbook. What's the purpose of citing a whole textbook? So I think we really need to be very focused when we do our citations, when we do our references, that we are picking something, an article that will substantiate what we just said, and not just throw the whole encyclopedia at the article. It's useless. So that's my my appeal to young authors and older ones, although that may be tougher to do. You know, you can. But anyway, but for young authors to pay particular attention to what they are citing, how, you know, what material they're using. I mean, we talked about also citing from from very established journals, which is very important also, but also to look at the matter. And, you know, you don't cite 10 articles for one fact just because you've read 10 articles. Just pick the one that's most important to substantiate what you just said.
Thank you for that important issue. For all scientists or authors, so there are two extremes. First extreme, when inexperienced authors publish an article and put bizarre references in their reference lists, they should learn how to search through databases comprehensively and systematically, even for original research papers, and should pay attention whether references cited by them are widely visible, accessible to reviewers. There is also another extreme. Nature. I am not criticizing Nature. However, Ukrainian scientist Serhiy Nazarevich published 3 years ago short note with Nature, and he raised an important point. Nature and other top scientific journals, they cut out all non-Anglophone references and sometimes even coerce authors, non-Anglophone authors, to cite Anglophone resources, Anglophone references. So that's also another extreme, also unacceptable. So we should find something in the middle, and we should encourage citation of widely visible, highly relevant, ethical sources, and we should discourage our inexperienced authors to overly cite their own articles. These can lead to retraction. They should understand that references are not for manipulation and for boosting one's own profile. References are for scientometrics, for bibliometric analysis. And if there is any basic error introduced by authors, these can also result in fraud, in erroneous bibliometric analysis. So authors, first of all, should know, reviewers should try to spot irregularities in reference lists, and editors should be in a position also to advise authors diplomatically to replace irrelevant, erroneous references and avoid auto citations. Although there are no any regulations on limit of auto citations, these limits come from common sense, but authors should know that abundantly citing articles, own articles, unacceptable. It's acceptable only for Nobel Prize winners, laureates, if they analyze their previous articles, previous research studies, and try to reach something new, reach take-home message for the. But other than that, other than authoritative reviews and studies by Nobel Prize laureates, all other researchers should be more balanced, more ethical, and more modest when they cite their own articles.
Yes, and another, I think another problem with citations is when an author puts down something that is unsearchable. In other words, puts down some very esoteric journal or very limited journal that is not, in today's age, is not electronic, or you can't search it on the web. And therefore, it's useless, because if one cannot go back and search out the citations that one puts down, it's a useless piece of work. I mean, as far as that particular citation goes. Now, obviously, there may be some historical things that are, like the first transplantation done in 1930 or something like that in some esoteric journal that was never discovered until 1960 or 2000. Yes, of course, that's something different. That's a very unique and historic, but to be citing things otherwise in journals and articles that are not searchable, I think is just diminishes the value of that article.
Again, thank you very much for quite practical comment, question. So all historic papers, valuable papers, should be digitized and should be available online. Let's say articles by Hans Krebs, articles by Nobel Prize winners or Albert Einstein's, all articles are digitized and even republished. German articles are republished in English to increase visibility and readability. The same for Eastern European and Ukrainian scholars. They should digitize all contents of their historic journals, valuable journals, having historical value. So it may also increase their visibility and exposure to potential readers and citers, those who are going to cite. So digitization is an answer to that comment, your comment. Of course, some non-digitized articles are valuable and rarely they can be cited if authors may justify their point, may justify the relevance of citing that hardly visible or non-visible item. So we should try to increase visibility. We should try to advance open access in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, although we have numerous open access journals in Eastern Europe. Unfortunately, percentage of those with quality open access is still unacceptably low. We should increase those with DOAJ quality mark, quality award, quality stamp. All open access journals, proceedings, Lviv journals should try to use XML conversion to increase exposure to databases, whereas all databases nowadays use XML conversion, even Scopus, they pay attention to that. So PDF articles, not enough. HTML, useless for databases. XML, whereas XML files used for improving coverage and visibility. So Professor Lancina, other questions, comments?
I'm thrilled to be part of this webinar. This is great.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for your support, highly professional comments, inspiring and directing our webinar towards practical use, towards strong messages for our participants. Hopefully, we'll have better articles, better drafted and well-edited journals, indexable by databases like Scopus, Web of Science, Medline, and PubMed Central Archive. We should raise bar of indexing and archiving for Eastern European journals, and at the same time, we should support all Eastern European journals to digitize their contents, improve in English quality of writings, and make these articles and journals readable by American, British, and Anglophone readers and authors who cite and may increase scientific prestige of articles and journals. Good luck to all. I wish you all to stay safe and healthy, vaccinated, or after your COVID-19. So we'll see how all these progresses, or this pandemic progresses. Hopefully we now see the end of this light at the end of the tunnel, and probably in the coming months we'll also arrange face-to-face meetings
For sure, yeah.
for book fair, to attend book fair, traditional annual book fair in Lviv.
Yes, let's hope.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks to all.
Yeah, yeah.
Many thanks to all, to our participants, to our speakers, and we are waiting for your new articles with innovative approaches. And see you on the next webinar or face-to-face meeting, probably.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Good.
Thank you.